Peace. Oh shit, it's already giving me that stupid ass delay. It is what it is. What's good, family? Teacher Maria says she going on a date. Okay. Karis Knopflin, what's good? The Grand Negus said peace to the gods and earths. We make this shit work. You motherfucking right. Michael Dixon was popping. Shaheem Universal Shabazz Allah. Hold up, what'd you say? Said, peace, God, looking like I'm a legend out here, Lord. Ha ha ha. Brooklyn in the building. A1 Drizzy, what's good? It's Wednesday, y'all. June 7th. You know that makes today's Man of God. We love the God Day. Hopefully my video will catch up with my audio like it usually does. But anyway, what's good, family? Welcome back to the Godcast. Got another great interview coming up for you. All my people on the East Coast, what the fuck is going on out here? It look like Armageddon outside. Am I right or left? The fucking sky look yellow. As my man Dante said, it looks sepia tone outside. Yeah. From Nova Scotia? Are we sure about this? I know it smelled like smoke. It looked like smoke. I'm just saying, God damn, smoke traveled that far? Come on, man. Something's fishy out this motherfucker. Who's experiencing this crazy ass smoke? Y'all talk about it in the chat. Before we get started, oh man, I got a horrible fucking call yesterday, man. It is with great sadness and yeah, it's just with great sadness and a heavy heart that where is it at? Yeah, I have to announce the passing of my man 1159. Yo, anybody that knows 1159 is an artist that, you know, came across my radar from Chicago, and man, this dude was just super dope, just super talented. He's a Godcast alum. You'd often see him in the chat. But yeah, I did 2 singles with him. The first single I did with him was called Bay of Pigs. Y'all can check that out on all streaming services. Then the next joint I did with him was called 94 Crime Bill. And man, like this dude was supposed to be part of the team. You know what I mean? We got a team we putting together right now. Real God Squad shit. And it's like, he was one of the members of the team, man. And I got a call yesterday, man, from his queen, man, like telling me they found him and all of this crazy shit, man. Like, ooh, it's a tough one, man. And even though I never met him physically in person, yo, that shit hurt, man. Like, that shit definitely hurt because I know his spirit. He's just a good brother. And he was just starting to get his little, he's in his 40s and all of that. But as you can see, the brother, a little overweight. If you want to understand, he may have had diabetes and all of this type of shit. I don't really know the cause of death at the moment. But, it wasn't murder in the traditional sense, although we get murdered all the time with our diets. So yeah, man, it's a real shame, man, because I'm telling you, he's about to pop, man. I was ready to do a whole album for this dude, man, and do whatever I could to bring light to his situation, because that's what the fuck I do. But rest in peace, man, to my man 1159. I'm gonna let y'all know, because I'm pretty sure, he's gonna need like a GoFundMe or some shit like that. It's hard out here for brothers, man. He worked a regular job and all that type of shit. Seriously doubt if he had any insurance or anything like that. He wasn't out here touring and none of this type of shit. So when that shit, that information is passed to me, I'm gonna bring that, you know what I mean? And let y'all know what time it is. So y'all can support the brother. I know a lot of y'all in the chat remember and know who the fuck 1159. If you know me and you know this channel, then you should know 1159. So, yeah, man. Rest in peace to my brother. Maybe this is him, like, casting a fucking cloud on you motherfuckers, letting you know. But anyway, with no further ado, I want to bring my next guest up. This guy, man, I guess he's what you would call a legendary, famed A&R. First of all, a lot of people have heard this term A&R, and you're probably like, what the fuck is an A&R? We're gonna find that out today, because it's kind of a elusive term. I know technically it means what, artist and repertoire. But what the fuck does that mean? So we're gonna get into that. This happened to be the guy that saw the vision and signed Brand Nubian to Elektra Records back in the days. We'll clap it up for seeing the vision. Now, not that we had the greatest contract, but we did get signed. Yeah. So, man, he went on to sign many other legends after that. KMD, which included, our brother who later became MF Doom. He signed Leaders of the New School, fucking Pete Rock and CL Smooth. He went on to sell records with Everlast, and now he has a book chronicling his experiences in the game. It's called Son of the City. I actually went to the what do you have? A little mixer for the motherfucker or whatever, like a little building session. Yeah, is what they was calling it. And it was dope. I found out some things that I didn't necessarily know. And yeah, we're just gonna talk about it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want y'all to welcome to the Godcast. And let's keep it real. We probably can count on one or two hands how many Caucasian guests we've had on our show. So he's joining the Hall of Fame in that sense as well. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Dante Ross.
What up, man? How are you?
Hold up, it's moving slow. There we go.
What's going on, Jay? You good? Oh, my condolences, man.
Oh, thanks, man. Yo, I might need to even play some shit later on, man, and like get your A&R fucking opinion, and you ain't gotta, you know what I mean? I don't think you're just gonna say, oh, he's dope just because he died, and you know, I want to hear some good shit about him. You're gonna be like, yo, that motherfucker's dope. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, you have good taste. I have no doubt he's dope.
yes, I do have good taste. I do.
You have discerning taste.
I do, man. So what's good, Dante? How are you?
Good, man. Life is good, man. No complaints, you know. I'm in LA.
Right.
My family's telling me in New York that New York looks fucking crazy, like the zombie apocalypse.
It really looks like a fucking apocalypse out here right now. Like the sky is just a yellowish, it's cloudy, it smells like smoke. I mean, I started smelling smoke yesterday, but it was clear. And I was like, first I'm like, that's a strong ass barbecue or somebody, you know what I mean? I thought somebody was burnt, and then I was like, nah, this shit is a little prolonged. I didn't know what it was, but it wasn't overcast. Then today, it looks like literally like the smoke is like burning from up the block or some shit. Like it's crazy out here right
I wonder what the cumulative effect of that is on our health. You know,
well, they're saying respiratory wise, this can't be good for people with respiratory
of course not.
conditions and illnesses and people that use inhalers and shit like that.
Did you let me ask you, did you get COVID? Did you get it at all?
No. If I did get it, I had it for like one day.
Yeah, I had it twice. I never really got sick, but I think that there's a cumulative effect that COVID has on you. I think the more times you get it, I think it's detrimental to your respiratory and some other parts of your body. And we won't know that for like 50 years.
Right. We also won't know if the vaccine that was taken.
This is true.
Is so.
I lost you for a second.
You hear me now?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. I said, yeah, we won't necessarily know if that JIDAB is detrimental to your health, and
somehow, they're never going to let us know about that.
20 years later, you found out, oh shit, you know, that caused some sort of thing to my respiratory system. Or
I mean, I think we know that it caused some neurological complications for people. So I think people with some neurological issues, it set some shit off. People had strokes and et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, and they never want us to know what's really real, right? It's all, you know.
Exactly. So listen, let's get to the get down, man. First, like I said earlier, explain to people what is an A&R? What does an A&R do at a record company?
Well, what he did when I did it,
and what does it stand for? What is stand?
It stands for artist and repertoire. It means you sign groups, and you help them make their records. And it can mean various things to different people. Nowadays, I think it means analytics and research. Dudes are just reading numbers and going after, you know, everything with numbers. And I don't think discerning taste is necessarily part of it anymore. You know, people don't go out on a limb to sign something because it's great. They sign something because the numbers are great, right? And everyone has the same information. So in the heyday when I signed you guys, it was based on taste, right? Like what you actually liked, and maybe some form of buzz, but the buzz wasn't quantified by numbers. It was quantified by the culture moving around it, right? So it was a different kind of thing. And for me, A&R always meant trusting my gut and signing things I thought were important. And hopefully that would translate to sales. My ears and sales were somewhat aligned. But, you know, for me, it was all about the music I thought was important and spoke to me. You know, I didn't overthink a lot of it. And nowadays, because deals are so expensive, there's a lot of overthinking, second guessing, and it's all based on numbers. So everyone goes after the same thing. So one guy gets numbers, he meets with every single major label. When I signed you guys or any band I signed, that was really not the case. Very rarely was I involved in a bidding war. Really never. And now every signing is a bidding war. So it's really changed a lot. I mean, I think a lot of times the guys who do A&R these days are guys with relationships. I don't even know if they know music.
I like to say that back in the days, it was more of a talent contest, where today it's a popularity contest.
That's a good analogy. I don't think you're wrong. Yeah, that's pretty fitting. I mean, and your talent contest was your demo tape, right? It wasn't
Right.
like you did a live audition, but it was what you had on the tape. And for me, pretty much every group I signed always came to me from another artist or a group. Very rarely a manager, occasionally, but it was mostly like, like I signed you guys because of Puba, right? And I signed Pete and them because of Eddie F. So it always kind of came from someone else. It was always, and I signed Leaders because I knew about them already from the Bomb Squad. Chuck D had told me about them a few years earlier. So everything kind of came from word of mouth and someone who knew somebody. It was a totally different thing. And rap was also, hip hop was very small back then. It wasn't everybody in the world wasn't trying to be a rapper or be in the business or had their group they were pushing. It was a much smaller group of people. And I think a much, how can I say, a more progressive group of people who were trying to be involved in hip hop culture and music tended to be way more progressive and forward thinking. It was a more creative pool of people, if you will.
Now, you say that the demo was like how you displayed your talent.
Yeah.
Can you explain to the people what was it like when Grand Puba came to you with two guys that you never heard of, and they had no music?
Well, you had no music, you had a concept, and then when he first came to see me,
He didn't have a name either. Like,
he had a pause tape first. He was like, "Yo, we're gonna rock off this." That was it. That was it. No music, no rhymes, nothing, just a pause tape.
I don't even know if I knew about the pause tape.
Yeah, he had the pause tape, and it was literally rigor mortis was on the pause tape, the joint you used for Brand Nubian, and I want to say ain't going out like that. And your demo, when you had a demo, was I think only ain't going out like that. I think that was the only song. It never made the album, and it was hot, but it never was on the album.
Right. Well, that's because at the time, Kumo D had the same beat with
it was a James Brown joint, right?
Like that, yeah. But like Kumo D was the man at the time, and Puba didn't feel like we can compete, even though I felt like our shit was way grimier,
way better,
and like better. Like, yeah, but Puba was like, nah.
His shit was like Mo D shit was like keyboards. It was like the Teddy Riley version.
It wasn't hitting the way our shit was hitting. But when we came to you, we didn't have I Ain't Going Out Like That at first. What happened was you was like, we came to
I wanted to sign Max.
Sign Puba. You already knew who he was, and he was like, I mean, I'm sure your boys are dope, but I'm gonna need to play something or whatever, you know what I mean? So we was like, all right, cool. So from that day, for 2 weeks, every day, we're going up to Jazzy J's studio in the Bronx on Allerton Avenue, trying to get time for free. And so basically we have to sit through all these sessions and wait till the end. And if Jay feels like letting us, then we can go in the studio and do some shit. Like, so it took us 2 weeks. And in between that time, like Rocky Bucano, the dude that's doing like the Hip Hop Museum, he was like one of the owners of the studio at that time. And we felt like he was kind of hating on us. Like he didn't want us up there because he knew that we wasn't paying for the studio time, and he got a business to run, and he just seemed like an antagonist to the fucking situation. You know what I mean?
And you guys have been signed. Well, Max had been signed to Rocky. Yeah, right. Masters of Ceremony. So he was signed to Strong City, right? That was their label.
Correct. So I don't think he wanted him up there.
Nah, Max had moonwalked on it. It all fell apart, right? So
right. Yeah. So whatever the case may be, I just felt dirty looks from him. And
interesting. Yeah, I mean, I always wondered about how that happened, because I know Jazzy J is he's Puba's man and he's a great dude. But I also was like, wait, how are they doing music in Jazzy's studio when Max is no longer signed there? There got to be some feelings, So I always wondered about how that worked, and I didn't know that Rocky was sideline antagonizing you guys.
Right. So we had to wait till like 2 a.m, shit like that. And so it took 2 weeks to finally put that together. You know what I mean? Because we had to listen to records, we had to loop the shit up. Then we finally had to, do vocals. And so it took 2 weeks.
Was
But every
Max
night-
did Max do the beats?
Yeah, he was like in the forefront of the beats at that time. Like, we
Right.
always putting our like mind into the shit, but he definitely was like, that was his idea right there. Like, I want to do this beat and boom, boom, boom. And we're gonna rhyme on this shit. So boom. We did it, we brought it back, and you was fucking with it.
I mean, you guys were great. It was like, Max probably could have showed up with like anyone. I probably would have given him a record. Let's be real. Like I was fucking with Max, and so when we made the De La record, we listened to Masters of Ceremony, right? We're listening to everybody, but we always were like, Mac, he's so dope. The rest of them maybe, but he's so dope. And I think everyone knew how dope Max was, and songs like Sexy were like Max solo records, basically. So he was already pretty brand name to us. What we didn't realize is that brand name to us meant this very small thing in New York, right? We didn't know that the whole country wasn't tuned in like we were. But I do remember when I was signing you guys, or I signed you guys, I saw Jam Master Jay one night. And he's like, "What are you working?" I said, "Oh, I signed this group with Grand Puba called Brand Nubian." He's like, "Yo, Grand Puba's the illest." Like, and I was like, "Whoa, Jam Master Jay just told me Grand Puba's the illest," which is super weird to me. And I don't know if you know why I started fucking with Max in the first place. I wanted him to produce Latifah, and he missed about 8 meetings with her. But when he did show up, he started talking about Brand Nubian, and so that's how it all came to be. Yeah, because I wanted him to do a duet with Latifah. She wanted to do it.
He produced Light before,
and well, it was mostly because he had the song Redder Posse, and we really liked that, and we wanted to do like a dance hall. Queen Latifah, Max kind of jump off, and we never got it done.
Interesting.
That was the idea.
But he did Light back in the day, right? He wrote for Light. Yeah.
Not only did he write for Light, I think he did her first record. I think he did her first joint ever, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know about the first joint ever, but
what was her first song? What was it? Because he did Quarter Grand Pam.
He did I Am the Light, the Light, the Light.
Right. I mean, that was a banger. He also did Paz K's first joints that were on First Priority. Step Up Front.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, Max,
I was an ill producer, all of that type of shit back in the day.
He was a great producer. I mean, he was a very, very talented cat, man. Still is. I mean, Max is Max, right? He's an enigma, if you will.
Right. So yeah, then we didn't have a name. So then he was like, "All right, what's the name?" And then we was like, "All right."
And I fucked the name up on one of the records. I put the S on it, right?
Maybe. And we was like, "No."
Yeah, you was not happy about that. I don't think I put it on the record.
I hate when people say Brand Nubians.
Yeah, and I always correct people because I got corrected a lot because I used to be like Brand Nubians.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you, working with you guys, I learned a lot. I learned as much as I learned about music and about like the Nation of Gods and Earths. I learned also how to move, how to move and be accountable for my bullshit, and how to treat people. I also learned a lesson that I already knew, but it was reinforced, which is respect and trust is earned, never given, and I had to earn your guys' respect and trust, and that's a valuable lesson.
I heard you tell a story at your building session.
Yes, it's a good one.
And you were telling a story about Wake Up.
Yep,
okay.
100%. Should I tell? Do you want to hear it?
Please tell the story, and then I'll tell it from my perspective.
Yeah, because we never talked about this
perspective, and I'll tell it from my perspective.
So me and my partners did the first version of Wake Up, right? So and my ego is, I got an ego. So I walked into Chungking and they were redoing Wake Up. They were doing the song over, and I was fucking tight. And I wasn't tight as an A&R guy so much. I was tight as like, yo, they're redoing my song. What the fuck? And I literally walked over to the tape machine and I stopped the tape machine, and there was arguments and blah, blah, blah. And me and you got in a heated argument. And I think I was about to get punched in my fucking head. And I might have deserved it. I'm going to say I did deserve it because I don't think I understood that this was your art, not my art. And I'm saying like, wait, you can't mess with my art, right? My production, not knowing that you're the artist, right? I think in my head, I didn't have the balance right. I didn't really know how things worked. And I also was doing the world and the song a disservice because the version you guys did was better, right? And I didn't realize this in the moment. And then everything cooled out. I think I left the studio. I can't remember. I know I did whatever I did. I was in my feelings. I was mad, and I reassessed it when I got the record a few days later, and I was like, "This is better. Like this is actually better." And your version was the first single, and I probably have some of the facts along. That shit was like 30 years ago, but I do remember a tense moment, and I remember that my ego, in retrospect, almost cock blocked like a classic record, right? And that's a valuable lesson in
And so
itself.
it gave you a lesson as an A&R to sometimes be like, you know what, the artist might know better.
Yes.
Sometimes musically. Well, what was the lesson that you felt you learned? I don't even want to put words.
I learned that. Well, I learned a couple things. I learned the artist probably has a better vision than you for how they want to be perceived, right? And I also learned that it is the artist's art. It's not your fucking art. So if they feel passionate about something, whether you agree or not, you have to support that vision because that's your job as an A&R person. And you probably shouldn't sign a group if you're not going to support their passion and their vision. So you can make suggestions and you have to pick and choose the small battles that ensue. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but you can't do that until you earn someone's trust and respect. And at that point, it was like, we were just getting to know each other. Really, we hadn't gone through a lot of shit yet. So, understandably, being a white dude and your A&R guy, whether white or black, I was out of pocket, and I learned that I was out of pocket. I was like, oh yeah, that's not the way to do it. I seen Muggs do some one time. I was in the studio with him and his man Kurt Woodley was there, the A&R guy, and Kurt was like, Kurt goes, like, yo, maybe if we did this or that and this and that. And Muggs said, yo, that's a good idea for your record. Right? And I had to be like, oh shit, I never heard that before. So to me, that was basically your version of that. Like, but it was a more intense version of that. So, the lesson I learned was like, trust the artist's vision, try not to be intrusive. And you must allow an artist to follow their vision, whether they're right like you were that time, or even if they're wrong, because you don't have to live that art, they do.
So let me tell you it from my perspective, right?
Yeah, I gotta hear this. It's gonna be great.
So now you gotta understand, like, pretty much, I was a big influence of why we even rhymed about 5% stuff. Okay.
I always perceived you as the most militant member of the group.
Exactly. So, at one point, I didn't even hang with 85s. Okay. So these are black people who are not within the 5% nation. Like, we would be like, oh, you hang with 85s? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that's fucking wild.
So now I'm already discriminatory against my own people. So you can imagine when a young white dude, who seems to know about hip hop and all of that, but first of all, I didn't believe in my heart at that time that white people should have any involvement in the creation process of hip hop other than engineering. Or you know what I mean? Like, the engineer, that was cool. But in my mind, it was almost unfathomable that you were even trying to make beats, right?
I love it.
Like, wait a minute. Because I never even imagined that white dudes was making beats. And and besides like maybe Rick Rubin or somebody like that, you know what I mean?
Right.
Which I knew
He was. Yeah, he was. I mean, he was the one guy, right?
right. He was the one guy, but he was like an anomaly or some shit like that.
Right.
So, so all right. You're making beats. You got your beat crew and all this. You're almost taking advantage of your position as the A&R.
And I think you're right a little bit. I think in retrospect, I think that there was, I don't want to say it was like calculated.
It was self-nepotism.
Right. It was definitely ego driven. And I don't know. So the only thing I'll say about that is not the only thing, but I'll say that Max would drive me crazy if he took a beat of mine. So it wasn't like he ever felt he had to work with me, but I think it was a little bit like a layup, right? It's maybe not exactly even playing field. I don't disagree with that.
So now finally, the final component, right, is that when we heard the first version of Wake Up, I loved what Puba was saying on it so much. Me and Sincere loved it so much, but I hated the beat.
Wow.
I felt like the beat didn't feel the way the lyrics felt. It just felt too like happy, almost like you know what I mean? Like
I get it because he's breaking down fucking the lessons, right?
Exactly.
He's dropping serious science on that record.
And I knew this was going to be a fucking anthem type of record, the way he was breaking it down.
Yeah.
And I said, over my dead body. Over my dead body, am I going to let these dudes have the anthem, the beat to the anthem of the nation of gods and earths? That doesn't even make sense.
And you know what? I agree with you.
That would almost take away from our authenticity. They'd be like, oh yeah, but you let them fucking do the beat.
Right.
Like,
right, you had a devil do the beat, so I get it. I mean, I get
now
it.
me and Sincere, it was me and Sincere that were on like, nah, we got to find something better. Like and we went on a fucking beat search. And I believe it was Sincere that found the Ray Goodman and Brown.
Oh, wow, really?
Sincere found the Ray Goodman and Brown, but I'm the one that realized how well it went because we're playing it. And every beat that's coming, because I knew the song so well because I loved the lyrics, you know what I mean? So I'm just like, attribute, how'd you go? You know, I'm saying the shit. And then when I'm saying, I'm like, hang on. To this one, this shit sound crazy. There was no sunshine or nothing like that. So
did Max put sunshine in there?
And then put the sunshine shit in there later. We had just brought the Ray Goodman and Brown to
another day.
He was like, yo, listen to this. Like, I'm telling you, this is better than the other version. Like, you know.
How did Max feel about it? What was Max saying?
Once he heard, he was like, yo, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was like, yo. And that's when niggas just took it. And then the next time I heard it, he's like, yo, check this out. Then the next time I hear it, the shit got the sunshine. Now niggas is falling on the floor type of shit. Like, and I'm like, thank you. I'm like, yo, we did it. We fucking, like, I knew it was a fucking classic. Like, I knew it. Like, I was like, mission accomplished.
Right.
We did it. And we're gonna fuck around, and if this is a single, then this is gonna be the version. But you still went ahead and made a video version with your fucking beat to it.
Really? But
yeah, there's one out there.
But you shot it. You shot it to.
I know, and and they changed the speed. That's how I was like, this motherfucker Dante. I said
I changed it. How did I change the tempo? I don't know how to do that in the video.
Yo, they must have time stretched it or some shit back then. They must have put it through the 950. I don't know what the fuck, but there's a video version.
But your video's the version that went to MTV, correct?
Yes. And your shit popped up later. Like, I don't know.
Wild.
Yeah.
I don't even know how they do that. So I'm sure I had something
to do with it. You didn't know about that?
No, I'm sure I did know about it at the time. And here's where selective memory comes in. I don't remember it today. And I probably did do it like think I'm gonna sync it to my video.
Right.
I will say that if things are the same tempo, I've done that with
It
more
wasn't
than
the
one
same
video.
tempo though. It wasn't.
So how the fuck did they?
Because if
How
you
did they
think
even?
about it, the shit is
Are
much slower.
Are the lyrics off?
I don't think so. I don't remember. I would have to see. Like,
Is
I
it
don't
on
know.
YouTube? Because I gotta go find it.
It probably is on YouTube. You just got to find it and shit. Go
That's wild.
check it out.
Because I know we did that with Slow Down, right? We or All for One. There's a clean version with the other sample, and then there's the dirty version. Like they're the same tempo though.
So I feel like after that.
So you guys hated me then.
No. But I feel like after that, you kind of like stepped out the way. Like, you know what I mean? You was like, you know what? Let me just let them kind of like do what they do. Like, and I don't remember like really any like interference in my mind after that point.
I think
what beats did you do on the album?
I just did Step to the Rear is the only other one I did.
Now, see, Step to the Rear
is a Puba solo song.
But hold up. But I love Step to the Rear. That's when they told me that you did Step to the Rear. I said, they did Step to the Rear? And that's when I was like, wow, okay. Like, I guess white boys could do fucking beats. So yeah, clap up for that. I guess white boys could do beats.
You know what's funny?
Let's not get crazy.
So so we were doing another beat for Max, and he came to the studio. Remember how long it took to track a beat out back in the day? Like, you're tracking a beat on a 2-inch. That could take 3 hours, right? Like, goddamn, locking up your fucking, the SP12 and blah, blah, blah. It's fucking take forever. So we had tracked out another beat. It was a Wild Magnolia sample, Hand to Wanda, I think, chopped up. It was cool, but it was like fast kind of. And Puba came in and he was like an hour late, and he was like, yo, he sat there for like 15 minutes. He was like, yo, I can't fuck with it. I was like, I hate you. We didn't know we didn't know what we were gonna do, right? So my partner just pulled out the disc for Step to the Rear, the sample, and he put in the S900. My partner Gibi and Puba loved it. We just put the little kick and snare in it and a little piano part. That was basically it. It's a very simple song. But what's funny is, so the guy who did that record he's actually Egyptian. So he wasn't technically a white guy. So so there you go. The original
Gibi was Egyptian?
Yeah, he's Egyptian. He's Egyptian and Irish. He's born in Egypt. So he was and he has an Egyptian last name, Johnny. So he's actually part Egyptian and very proud of it. He's actually Egyptian Palestinian, to be exact.
Right, but he hung out with the white boy crew though.
Oh yeah, he grew up with white guys.
Yeah, he hung out with
he was hanging out with white
type crew.
100%. He was like the OG to us back then. So yeah. But he grew up in Spanish Harlem and moved downtown. So he was a little different, just because that. So there was part original man's fingers in that song. So
well, I definitely enjoyed and appreciated Step to the Rear, and I was not mad at it, other than, why is he doing this on some solo shit at the time? You know what I mean? Like,
that was the craziest thing about Max, right? In the middle of the record, he just does 3 solo records. Like he's like, oh yeah, this one and this one and this one. And I'm like, what the hell is, look, I had no illusions. I just didn't think it was going to last, because he's going left in like very early on. Right. It was definitely, I could feel that there was emerging from the group kind of 2 different camps. There's like Puba and then there's you guys. And it felt fucking awkward. I got to be honest. And I was mad too, because the record is so fucking good. I'm like, yo, like, what do we do? Like, it's fucking weird.
I mean, listen, I chalk it up to just it's growing pains, man. See, Puba is a little bit older than us. We was the young boys. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then it's hard sometimes to look at your young boys and then like have to now equal out with them. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so we're expecting, okay, now I know you helped put us on, but We all signed this dotted line equally. We split our shit. So, we equals now. But and then you have this alpha male thing going on with
Of
me
course.
and Puba. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where, so it's that type of shit going on. And that just happens in nature naturally. Like, you know what I mean? Like big brother, little brother, fucking, and at some
It's very.
point,
I think it's very hard with two alpha males in any group. Leaders was the same way.
right. Charlie Brown and Busta Rhymes, I seen it. I've
seen them go head up a few times.
Talk with both of them, like, you know what I mean? Like for hours and shit like that. Like with each one, like they just talking, like, about the group and just all kind of,
It got very personal with those guys.
Yeah, it did. But that's just the shit that happens. But see, me now, fast forward, me and Puba is like, that's my brother. You know what I mean? Like, because we grew into a certain respect for each other and showed and prove. You got to show and prove and shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
one thing about the dynamic of Brand Nubian is like you were always about your shit. Like you're like, no one can say like you didn't show up for the meeting, right? Like you always were very involved and accountable. So I think that there was points in time when you were functioning completely responsibly and Puba wasn't. And I think that the balance of power became kind of weird. You know what I mean? Like Max is like, he's an egomaniac with low self-esteem, like many of us, myself included. So, he's like, I'm the greatest, but the greatest has to show up. You can't be the greatest if you're not showing up. And I think that was part of the quandary that existed. I always thought that Max should have stayed working in Brand Nubian and done a solo record. I always thought that should have happened. But in retrospect, your second record is fucking phenomenal. And I don't think you make that record if Puba's in the group. I think that record's not what it is.
Right. Exactly.
So everything happens for a reason.
That was my vision at the time. Like
100%.
Since you bring that up real quick, let me ask you. So you signed us because of Puba and all that type of shit.
Right.
But now when Puba leaves the group, what makes you believe that me and Sadat can still go on as Brand Nubian and make music? Because it seems like, not to take nothing away, but like when Leaders broke up, it seemed like the only one that got an opportunity was Busta. And how come?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so what was different about the situation?
Well, I saw how you guys conducted yourself making the first record. You guys were focused. That's one. Two, I felt I owed it to you guys, to give you a shot. Like, it had fallen apart in an awkward way. I thought you guys were great on the first record, and I thought there was a lot of potential there. I didn't do it because I was like, look, no one does anything in the music business because they think it's like, oh, I owe it to this guy. Like, but it's gonna flop. Like, I didn't walk into it like that. That's it. That's not how it works. So I thought that you guys had a lot of potential, and I seen how focused you were. And the other thing was, I felt like, how can I say it? I always root for the underdogs. I always have, and I felt like you guys had a lot to prove. You were like, yo, you know what? Watch this. And I saw it in you. I can't explain it other than that. I just felt it, and I was like, you know what?
And that was the attitude, right? Like, watch 100%. This.
Yeah, you had your chest out, like, yo, I could do this. Fuck this. UNX, and right. I mean, Jesus Christ, Punks Jump Up is a fucking classic. I personally always, and this is weird, some people don't agree with me, but I personally like In God We Trust more than Real to Real. To me, it was iller. It was just an iller record to me. It was more conceptual. It just was to me a more thorough album thematically, and it had some incredible songs on Allah You Akbar, Love Him, Leave Him Alone. Obviously, Punks Jump Up. The whole shit, Steal Your Hoe was my shit. I just thought the shit was banging. Yeah, I thought the shit was popping. Pass the Gat, Travel Jam, all that. It was one of them albums I listened to the whole album. So, and I remember early on when we were assembling the album, I had like a rough version of it, and I played it for a couple of friends of mine, and they were like, "Yo, that shit is banging." Like they were all like, "Yo, that shit is crazy." So and I just seen the reaction from people who have nothing to. They're not going to bullshit me, right? So there, and who was who used to always make me play the demos for him was Pete and CL, particularly CL. He would always come to my office, yo, let me hear that brand Nubian shit. And he's like, yo, this shit is fucking Puba up. He would always say that, just so you know. them dudes had a heated debate about what was better, real to real. Dio, Puba, Dio, CL, Pete, and I want to say Tracy Waples was all in my office debating the two albums one time. It was ill. It was really interesting. And look, the fact that debate existed shows you how great your album was, right? That's one of the things that record to me is like, I'm very proud of that record because there were people on the sidelines. You know how motherfuckers are. They want to talk shit and blah, blah. And you guys addressed it even in the song in Pump Jump Up, right? I thought I was like,
that was pretty genius with Sadat, how he started.
That record is great, and all the controversy that surrounded it.
I even did a wake up on that one though.
You did? Oh, that's right, you did. I forgot.
Well, as far
you did
as
a crazy one, because the other Diamond D one was going to be the version, and then you played the Punks version,
the album version.
That's right, you're right.
There was the album version of Punks, which I loved, which was crazy hard. But then we fucking at the video shoot for Diamond's shit, and then we chilling, and he's like, "Yo, I did a little remix, to the Punk Jump Up. You check it out." Like, and he played the shit, and like he had the shit falling, in my opinion, wrong. But it was dope as fuck. Like he had the sample. It wasn't starting from bing, bing, boom, boom. Like in his mind, like the one was like doom, doom, doom. Like I can't even explain it. And he did it again with the third remix. Remember, there's 3 versions to this shit.
Yeah.
But each time I had to fix the one, he was like, listen, Jay, I don't give a fuck. Like everybody hears music different. Wherever you hear the one, put it there. Like, you know what I mean? So I changed the one.
I want to ask Diamond if he did that because De La had used the sample for Biddies in the BK Lounge, and they used it pretty much the same way.
I don't know. All I know is I was hearing the one how it is. Like, you know what I mean? And
it's crazy. I had that Lou Donaldson loop too. And I was like, and I didn't use it when Biddies came out. I was like, oh yeah, they used it. A year later, you use it. And I never remember.
I said, we need to use this for the video, man.
I remember that you guys came to my office and you were like, yo, this is the version. And I remember I was like, that is the version. Like there was it wasn't an argument. It was like, I was like, 100% right. And the Diamond version, the other one, the Bronx style raw version is dope. But the one with the Lou Donaldson loop that's the classic. And that record, like literally, look, I've been in the club and I've seen people get punched in the face when that record comes on. It's like one of those records. It gives people just, has that energy.
Now I like that you said I've been in the club and people punch in the face. Hold that thought real quick. If you're just joining us, we're here with famed A&R Dante Ross. Make sure you click the like button and all that type of good shit. If you're just joining us, make sure you subscribe to the channel, click that notification bell, and click all. Now, my man Ep Rock, who is around back in the days, he's in the chat right now, and he said, talk about Kilimanjaro, hard to the
wow. Oh yeah, Tommy's in it. Tom Ep, that's your man from Now Room Mob.
Exactly.
That Kilimanjaro shit was amazing. That shit was amazing. That shit was amazing.
Like it's online. If you get a chance, do they have the whole? I think the whole night is online.
I'll pass the whole thing. Yeah, I think the whole thing is online. So basically, Elektra has all these groups I sign, and Brand Nubians. Can I say the pinnacle? Right, you guys are. It's popping.
So who is there that night? KMD.
Leaders of the New School, P-Rock, CL Smooth. Shazzy perform?
Oh, I remember that name, Shazzy. I don't think
she was the first group I signed. I don't think she performed, but I think this other group that I didn't sign performed, Tyson and Woody. Someone else signed them, and they weren't really popping. They opened. They were nice kids from Detroit, but it didn't pop. They, I think, opened and caught a bad one. And in New York City at that time, because you had done that at the New Music Seminar, basically Brand Nubians would roll with one of the biggest crews I've ever seen in the history of rap music. It was like 100 deep at all times. Now Rule Mob.
You don't get in. The X makes it X to the rear.
I mean, you know,
take care of them before I take care of others. Like that was some real shit.
The Now Rule Mob was huge mossy dudes. And luckily, none of them wanted to kill me. So they were all like pretty. They were cool. I knew most of them.
Was fighting that night.
Oh yeah, dudes was always. I mean, look, if the Now Rule Mob showed up, someone's probably getting beat up if they try and stop them. There's so many people. Because I don't remember if you remember the Irving Plaza shit when you guys walked into Irving Plaza like 100+ deep at the New Music Seminar and took that shit over. You took it over.
That was the show that actually made us infectious. Like we had so many people in the crowd. And so our tape was already distributed in New Rochelle. Like everybody had the demo, I guess. You know what I mean? Like somebody taped it off of this one. And so everybody knew the words to everything that we was doing. So like we literally went viral inside Irving Plaza that night because all of our people were singing the words, and I literally saw people looking like, yo, how the fuck do they know this? Like, and I don't know it. Like, and this amount of people know it. So it almost made them feel like, shit, I gotta catch up. Like I must be missing out on some shit. Like, and so yeah, that Irving Plaza and then the Kilimanjaros. Like, but before that,
at Irving Plaza, I was with Ice-T, and Ice-T said to me, yo, that's gonna win. I remember Ice-T was, and he didn't know who you guys were. He just knew who Puba was, but Ice-T was just there. And you know, Ice is he's a lot of things. He's a fucking smart motherfucker. And he seen the energy, and he was like, that right there, you got one. And I was like, I already knew that, but to hear it from him was bugged out.
Yeah. So yeah, that Kilimanjaro, man, like before
that was like part 2. Like Kilimanjaro was like, so we have this showcase, and basically it's a brand new album release party that the label like is, we're gonna make it a showcase, hard to the left. And I'm like, good luck. It's gonna be a brand Nubian night. Like have fun. Luckily, a lot of I guess Now Rule Mob and people who were in the building were hip to KMD. De La was up in there that night. I think Latif was there. Everyone's there, all the native tongues. And it was like just a real cultural event. You couldn't fit one more motherfucker in that place. That shit was completely mobbed up. Like, and when you guys got on, because I remember Pete and them got on, and that shit was ill because same kind of, you know, you're from the same area. And they got a lot of love that night, Leaders too. But when you guys got on, that shit was like game over. It was close. It felt like a riot could ensue at any moment. I was like, this shit could go over the top.
It's
like
semi-did. Latest news from New Row was fighting some dudes from Queens and all this type of shit. And like we never been that deep in a club in the city before. Like up until that time, New Rochelle had never been. We're the first ones to bring New Rochelle to the city like that. You know what I mean? Like
it was a statement. It was a statement,
so,
to say the least.
For a lot of people, it's their first time really going out like that, and they lost their minds, man.
I feel like that was like, you guys were buzzing already, and that just solidified everything. Look, when Brand Nubian, when the album came out, that shit came out of every fucking car, everywhere I went in New York City. I heard it as far away as London. Before it was out, motherfuckers in London, somehow had a tape. They had a tape in Virginia Beach when I was in VA. It was like this tape traveled so fucking far. And I don't know how it traveled so far, and people would have fucked up versions of it. But that thing was everywhere. It was everywhere before it even came out.
So let's move backwards now. I've been, talking a lot about our relationship and stuff, but get into how you even started in this A&R shit. Like, how did you even break into this music shit? Not necessarily being a musician.
Right. Well, musician is such a crazy term, right?
Right.
And I actually played drums as a kid. So
okay.
I was kind of a musician, maybe.
Well, you weren't a rapper or a singer.
Yeah.
Right?
And you got the world's lucky I never tried to be a rapper. Like
You
we
don't
need another.
sound. You don't have that kind of voice where it seems like you might
Nah,
can
and
hold the tune.
we don't need another trash white rapper in the universe. We're good on that. I grew up downtown. I was friends with the Beastie Boys. We were kids who started going out to nightclubs really young, 13, 14 years old, and we were into music, punk rock, and I
Hanging
guess
out on the High Line before it was cool.
doing graffiti, writing graffiti and skateboarding around and going to shows. We loved this band called the Bad Brains. They were like, black punk rock band. They were our favorite group. We loved the Clash. But punk rock got corny. We were a little late for it. We showed up in 80 or so. Punk rock had been out since 77. We caught the tail end of it. And it turned into something that we wasn't fucking with. It's like, the shit is corny. But we always listened to rap music. I think the first song we ever heard probably was Rapper's Delight, 1979. But we always liked rap music. Jimmy Spicer, Treacherous 3. These records were records we all liked. We're in high school. Blondie came out. Fearless 4, Spoonie G. All these records, Rock the Body and the Big Beat and all these records. We liked all these records. We listened to them. Malcolm McLaren and the Supreme Team, and rap became the new thing. Hip hop. When I was really young, I went to the party that became the Roxy, Wheels of Steel. I was friends with Ramal Z from Graffiti. He told me to go to a place called The Grill. I see him at a graffiti art gallery called the Fun Gallery. So I knew Fat Five Freddy, Futura 2000, Ramal Z. I knew them since I was a kid. And I was maybe 16. And he told me and Mike D, you should go to this thing at The Grill. I'm rocking it. It's tomorrow. And we went. It was a Wednesday night. And it was the first time I'd seen Treacherous 3 before. I seen Fearless 4. I seen Jimmy Spicer. I seen him do the Bubba Bunch. I seen Super Rhymes. I'd seen shit before, Grandmaster Flash, but I had never seen, because they were playing white clubs. Like, they were coming, and I used to go to Club Danceteria. They all played there. So, but it was like, I saw them live, but I didn't see the culture, if that makes sense. So I went to this party, and Islam was DJing and Jay. Bam was back in the booth. Ramal Z was on the mic. Then I want to say, I don't think it was Mel, maybe Cowboy, Ramal Z, a couple of dudes were on the mic. And I seen breakdancing in front of me, like real breaking, like Crazy Legs in them. So in one spot, I see, fucking Jay and Islam and Ramal Z and these dudes rocking the mic while dudes are breaking and cutting in real time, all at one time. And I never seen nothing like it before. So I was sold. I was like, this is the new shit. We all were so powerful. It was the most powerful shit we'd ever seen. And this is, I want to say 1981. And from there, I became obsessed. I'm a pretty obsessive person, whether it's skateboarding or basketball or whatever it is. I'm very obsessive. And hip hop just was so cool. It was just the coolest shit ever. I was a pretty good skater. Yeah, I was a sponsored skater. Yeah, I was pretty good. And I was decent at basketball. I never had a great handle, but I could jump. I could play. I play with X and Mo. They're both better than me. But I could play ball. I'm not terrible. I played basketball at Bobito in high school, and Pete Nice and all those guys. We all played ball. A decent athlete, and I'm just obsessive about shit. I was good at graffiti. If I want to get good at something, I get good. I get somewhat good at. I immerse myself in the culture. You're like the same way. Like, if you immerse yourself, you're gonna figure it out. So, I just was obsessed, man, and graffiti went hand in hand with it. And to me, it was like we were the cool kids, and this was the cool thing to do. And these other dudes got left in the dust. And a couple of years later, they might have caught up, but I think it took Run DMC probably for them to catch up. And, we all know that rap was, it got musical. Dudes was dressing real crazy, looking like a broke Rick James. It was kind of weird, in a weird place in like 1982. Records were good, but Run DMC comes out and it's like, bong. And they to me that's the lifestyle of rap for me. That's what I identified with, because I couldn't dress like Melly Mel or the Treacherous 3, but I saw Run DMC and I could dress like that.
Leather pants was not cheap, let me tell you.
I never had leather pants, but I had black leaves. I
never had no leather pants neither, but I just know, like, you see them shits in the store and you be like, damn.
Yeah, and they were fly. I had the blazer. I had the blazer, and I had I had my Kango or whatever it was, and some black leaves with the crease, and the Adidas or Pumas with fat laces, and shit was just cool. Run DMC were like to me, like they were the coolest thing I'd ever seen. it might, like, I don't want to say, like, because I never really liked Elvis Presley, but I seen Chuck Berry. He was fucking cool. Like, I seen people who were just cool. The Bad Brains were cool. The Clash were cool. Run DMC was cool like that. They were just fucking like they were cool the way like Gregory Isaacs was cool. They were just fucking cool, like Bob Marley or some shit. So I was like, wow, this is the coolest shit I ever seen. And I think that we were probably 2 years ahead of the rest of America, me and my downtown friends, right? And then white America all becomes immersed in hip hop when Raising Hell comes out. But we were, immersed in it early, and the Beasties were a punk rock band, and they wanted to make some other shit. So they started
real quick. So do you think at the time y'all would have been considered some of the first wiggers?
No, I don't think we were. I don't think we were wiggers. Nah, because we never tried
Adidas and fat laces and shit like that. You dressing like Run DMC and all of that. That's very hip hop influenced. That doesn't sound.
See, to me, wigger.
I'm talking like the King Ed Rock. Like, like you know what I'm saying?
I would say to me, wigger has a negative connotation. So I wouldn't say
I know, but do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I get it.
Are y'all some of the first white dudes that really were like inhaling that black culture and trying to like live it, kind of?
Living in New York, I always knew, I'm from the Lower East Side, and there was always white dudes who basically were hood, like in my neighborhood. I knew a bunch of people who, and this is before hip hop came out. I'm talking in the 70s. There's always, I mean, my pops is kind of like, and my dad's friends were all jazz musicians. He was a political activist, and he was friends with Stokely Carmichael in high school, and he knew Bobby Seale and all these.
Now that was interesting. I didn't know any of this when you were talking about.
Yeah,
this.
My pops was a really serious political activist. My mom as well. Like, they were friends with the Young Lords and all this other shit. So I grew up with this kind of respect for political activism and all this stuff. It was like in my DNA. So when you say wigger, to me, wigger is a cartoon character. I don't think we were cartoon characters. I think we were people who were really in love with the culture, and we didn't act like clowns. We weren't cartoon characters. We were people who had utmost respect for the culture, and were trying to find out more about the culture. Like, we were very open-minded to a lot of shit, and I wanted to listen. I didn't think I needed to talk so much back then. I wanted to learn about it, and I learned from people like the Jazzy J's of the world, or the Red Alerts of the world, or the Chuck D's of the world, or really Jam Master Jay and DMC, who became my friends when I was very young. And I used to play ball with Jay, and they put me up on Grandmaster Cass and Cold Crush. I only knew punk rock rap, but they they gave me tapes, and Jay did, and he played music for me. So wigger is a weird one. I kind of avoid that word, but I say we're early adapters is how I will put it.
Right. Well, I think you're thinking more of what the word evolved to be. You know what I mean? But if you think about what it initially meant, it just meant any white person that fucked with black culture. You know what I mean?
I mean, was there like a white mic in your neighborhood? Because I feel like there's a white mic in everyone's neighborhood.
I definitely, listen, we had this kid named Beef. Okay. Beef wore mock necks and Swedish mitts and fucking played basketball in the projects. Only white dude purposely, like, that's all where he played at. Like, he's going over the hill to play ball, and he was nice. Like he was, but nobody called him a wigger per se.
Right.
If somebody, once that term came out, looked at him, that's exactly what they would have called him.
I get it.
And Beef could fight. His name was Beef.
Yeah. So he's not a punk.
Like, I got other white dudes I knew from New Rochelle, like my man, this white kid Daz. He break dance and graffiti and all of this. And this is like around the time that you're probably doing all of this type of shit. Like, that type of shit was happening.
You know what's weird to me? Like, when I think about that time period. So New York had Guidos, like real live Guidos, right? And real live Guido motherfuckers they try to fuck with you because you dress like that. But black dudes are always pretty, especially back then, and in the circles we were running in with, like, the Ramalzis and Freddies, and meeting Jay and Red and all these people, they were always like, I never really got a lot of pushback. Dudes didn't really bother me. Like no one was ever like, I can't say dismissive, or it was a pretty open-minded kind of thing going on. You know, it's this cultural exchange that was happening, and I never really felt a lot of pushback. It wasn't really a thing. And even in my entire experience in the culture, very, very little pushback. And I think a lot of that comes to how you move, how you conduct yourself. If you're over the top or you're a clown, you know, motherfucker's going to check you. But I grew up on the Lower East Side, and I always had to mind my P's and Q's. We had checks and balances growing up. And if you didn't adhere to checks and balances, you got the shit beat out of you. And I didn't really want to get beat up. So I always kind of, you know, I stayed in my pocket. I'm not out of pocket too much.
There was a lot of dope being sold on the Lower East Side
Whoa.
back in the day.
Yo, Jay, when I try to
being sold on the Lower East Side back in the day.
I mean, when I try to explain to people how I grew up, because the Beastie Boys are like middle class dudes from the West Village and Uptown, Upper West Side. Where I grew up is fucked up. And I was, my mom's a teacher. I was in an academically advanced program. So they sent me to the West Side. Me and a bunch of crazy Puerto Rican kids, basically. We all got past this test. So they sent like 20 kids from my neighborhood to the nice school, right? The academically accelerated school. And in like a week, dudes were like shaking everyone down. Like my boys just running the whole school. It was a whole different thing. In my neighborhood, I always think that other than Harlem, the worst neighborhood in Manhattan was the Lower East Side. It was a fucking wild ass neighborhood to grow up in, but amazing. And I think it prepared me for my future career. Because when I was a kid, I grew up hearing records at block parties like Bra and Funky Drummer and Joyous by Pleasure and Just Begun and Apache. So I knew these records already. They're records that I grew up surrounded by. So when this becomes, you know, a thing and rap becomes a thing, I'm already acclimated to the soundtrack. I already understand it because these records are records I loved as a kid. So I had a lot of
How do you become an A&R though?
So here's how you become an A&R.
Right.
You become an A&R by going out.
How did you become an A&R?
Right. So I went out 6 nights a week. Right. I went to every night.
Many of us used to do.
Right. I go out every single night. In every spot, Latin Quarters. I go to Union Square. The World was kind of popping. Red Parrot was popping. Rooftop, I made it up there a few times, which was a crazy ass place.
Peace, Heck 9. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, I was up there like trying to check it all out and at the Quarter a lot. And I worked at Rush. I was a messenger. And I was
Now, how'd you get a job at Rush?
Beastie Boys. They plugged me in. Ricky Powell goes on the road. He's the office messenger. I get
that's the initial. That's the initial in right there. That a lot of people, you know, and sometimes it's who you know. Like, you know what I mean?
100%, 1,000,000%. And Russell liked me. He wanted, you know, we hung out with Russell, and he was hanging out in all the white trendy clubs, and then he would bring us to like the crazy place, the Fever or whatever. Right? I've been to the Fever way back, and that's definitely how I got plugged in by those guys. And I knew music because I go out every night and we live in real time. So the way you found about music back then was the mix show and going to the nightclub. You heard the record in the mix show, nightclub. These are the records. This is how it works. And I always knew what record was popping. And it usually pops in the nightclub and maybe on the mix show before it becomes a hit. So I was the one telling Russell and them, yo, BDP, yo, they're taking shots at your boys. Just know that. And South Bronx, that's going to be the joint. Like, watch out, you know? And I'm like, yeah, Marley, these dudes, Juice Crew, they're going for your neck. Like, it's going to happen, right? Because Run DMC and the Beastie Boys LL are up here, but then the golden age is starting to bubble. And I'm right there. I remember the first time I hear Rakim, when I hear Eric B. is president in 1987. I remember hearing Ego. I heard Ego Trip. I want to say at Union Square, 1986, and it is the wildest, craziest record I ever heard in my life. I never heard drums like that before. And, you know, my ears are open, and I see that Run DMC is super cool, but there's a whole other wave about to happen. And that wave is more age adjacent to me. So I'm a little younger than these dudes. So I'm waving the flag for the new shit, right? And that's how I get to be an A&R, because the flag I'm waving for the new shit, I'm right. And they start to see I'm 6 months ahead of motherfuckers, right? And 6 months in those times is like dog years today because things move so fast in that one pocket, 86, 87, 88. It's like it goes from Run DMC to De La Soul in 2 years, right? So I was in the mix and people liked me. Daddy-O, I was a road manager for Eric B. and Rakim. I won on the road to Beasties. I rapped
You
like
was
I
a
tell you.
road manager for Eric B. and Rakim?
Yeah, I was like the fill-in road manager for them. Yeah, which was cool. And I took them at Russell and Leor's behest to LA when they did their deal with Universal. And we were going back and forth between WBR, Warner Brothers, and Universal. I had to shuttle them back and forth. That's why I'm friends with Rakim to this day, because I've known him since then. And he was Rakim is a basketball fanatic like me. We watch basketball. So I took them to England one time, all the shit. Anyway, so I knew music. Daddy-O was my man. He told me that Tommy Boy was trying to give him an A&R job, but he wasn't going to take it. But he told them they should talk to me. So Daddy-O threw me the assist.
Really?
Daddy-O threw me the assist. Daddy-O was my man. Daddy-O, Chuck D, it's a couple others. Red Alert, people who just took a shine to me when I was a youngster. I had a lot of energy. I was always out. And I think my enthusiasm for the culture made them like me. You know what I mean? I remember when I first met Chuck D, I could not believe he wasn't 6'10". I was taller than him. It blew my mind. And I had the tape before it came out, like a long time before it came out. I knew all the words. I was asking all these questions. So, you know, an A&R guy is really just a music fan, right? And I believe that if you love someone's music, you should probably tell them. Don't be a creep about it. Don't be like, you're my favorite group ever. Let's, but I really dig your shit, right? You're incredible. So I always kind of give people their props. And I think that helped a lot. And Daddy-O lined me up for the job. When I interviewed, they played me De La Soul. They played me the demo. Monica asked me if I knew Prince Paul. I said I did. And she said, okay, we're going to schedule another interview. She interviewed me right before Christmas. And she gave me a job. She gave me the job. And
They
she told me
played you De La Soul to see what you were going to say about it, if you liked it or not? Or
yeah, I think that was it. They were trying to sign it already. And what people don't know is that there was a baby bidding war between Profile Records and Tommy Boy, and they hadn't done the deal yet. So they played me plug tuning, and I thought it was I thought it was incredible. And it was basically the demo was the record, and I was already digging.
I remember the first time I heard "No Potholes in My Lawn." That's the first shit I heard.
Plug tuning bugged me out. I knew the sample. It's Eric Burden and War. My pops had that record. Magic Mountain, and I was like, oh shit, they used that shit. It was super cool to me, and it reminded me, and I told Monica, she always remembers this too. I said, yo, it sounds like Slick Rick and Ultramagnetic had a baby. And I don't know why. I think because it was so weird. It was like Ultra, because they were like having fun, and Slick Rick had fun on his records, right? His shit was like witty and funny and playful. So it reminded me of Slick Rick a little bit. And then she interviewed me right before Christmas.
Ultramagnetic quirkiness.
Yeah, exactly. Ultramagnetic, the most slept on group ever, in my opinion. They started all the shit. So she gave me the job right before Christmas. She called me in and told me,
this is that Tommy Boy.
Yeah, she was like, hey, so, you got the gig. Merry Christmas. Here's your first group is De La Soul. And I started, I think, January after the Christmas holiday of that year.
Wow.
Yeah, and from there, De La was my first thing. I had that's pretty funny. I had the relationship with Red Alert. I sent him plug tuning. He told me he was going to play it. And I thought that meant he played in a couple of weeks or days, and he played it that day. And I was like, oh my God. So I was like the good luck charm. Latifah falls in my lap. I was at the quarters. 45 King came up to me and knew who I was, which was super weird. And also at the Latin quarters, like he didn't look like everyone in the Latin quarters. Latin quarters is super thugged out, and he wasn't thugged out. And I was like playing the back because I think he went to the quarters. You know how crazy that fucking place was. I was blessed.
I used to be up in that motherfucker.
Yeah, I was blessed. I didn't have any money. Like I didn't have any money to wear anything.
I used to be everywhere.
I mean,
I used to be places that you wouldn't even think of going. Trust me. Like,
yeah, like this.
I'm sure
I remember
your mind stopped at a certain point. Like,
yeah.
I'm not
I didn't
going
go
higher than the quarters.
Right.
Now,
Or
once
like,
it gets to Broadway RT and all that,
right,
and
exactly.
the rooftop and all that type
the
of
rooftop
shit.
is as far as I go. I don't go past the rooftop. I only go when I'm with people. I went to the rooftop.
Right.
I went to the rooftop 3 times in my life, and every time I went with people. And it seemed like why every time I was there, Rob Bass seemed to be performing. Why is this?
Yeah, that feels like a little later and shit.
It was at the end of the rooftop. It was the end.
I was going in prime rooftop. Dougie
It was
Fresh.
I saw Doug there. I saw Doug Rock there.
Shit like that.
Who was the kid who never made a record who was rocking out there too? There was someone else. I'm forgetting his name. I went to Zodiac one time. That was super scary. Smelled like angel dust. It was with De La Soul. We did a show there.
I've been speaking of angel. I've been to the original Fever on Jerome Avenue.
I went there. I went to the original Fever,
Webster.
but I went with Russell and a bunch of people. So it was, we were safe. But and I knew Sal forever. But yeah, the Fever was that was the
I'm just going as a kid. Just
I went there. I went there VIP because we went in the car with Russell and everything. It was like a thing. I think Rick might have been with us too. It was, and I never went to the Castle or any of those places up in the Bronx. That shit was always too, being from downtown. Well, I would go to Brooklyn. I went to high school in Brooklyn, but the Bronx is like, it's another thing. Like, you know what I mean? It's like the Bronx had me shook. I'm not fucking around with the Bronx as a kid. It was like, nah.
So, all right, you get the gig, Tommy Boy, boom, bam, boom. You're actually a Tommy Boy when we go over there, but you're like, but I just got a job at Elektra. You could come over here, or you could.
Yeah, it wasn't even like that. I straight up told Max, like, yo, I'm going to Elektra and you'll get a better deal. So come over here. Like, come wait up a minute, put the brakes on. And, Max is about his paper. And we're talking, so this is the other thing. We didn't know what paper was then, right? Paper was like, I didn't understand paper. Like, I didn't get it. Like, So, and the reason I went to work at Elektra is because I was hanging out with Russell and Andre Harrell, rest in peace, and Jimmy Love and a couple other people at Nell's one night. And he was like, yo, you're on fire, kid. Like, and Andre said, what you making? And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, what do you, I didn't even understand the question. And what are they paying you? And I was like, 30,000 a year. Those dudes started laughing at me. They laughed at me. And Russell was like, yo, you're a dumb motherfucker. He's like, come back to Def Jam. I got 45,000 for you. So the Beasties threw this dude at me, Tim Carr. He offered me a job at Capitol for like 60. And then Raul Roach, because of Gary Harris, rest in peace, knocked on my door and I met with him and this dude Krasno, and I was going to take the job. So I remember Monica wanted to sign Puba. She didn't really know about Brand Nubian, but Monica Lynch told me she knew I'm moonwalking out the door. She says, if you sign Grand Puba, that's unethical because we want to sign him. And I said, don't worry about it. I'm not signing Grand Puba. Don't worry about that. I'm signing, and I didn't tell her I'm signing Brand Nubian. So, so
it's not technically, it's not unethical.
Right. Well,
and you know what? Shit for that later?
A little bit, but you know what? Like paying me $30,000 a year is unethical.
Right. Ooh.
So I love Monica, but Tom owns the label and she's just like me, underpaid. So
right.
and they should have called that record company Mo Love Records because she did everything. She's the brains of all of that. And I firmly believe because she's a woman and it's called Tommy Boy, people don't know that. But she's the battery of that whole shit, whether it's Coolio or Naughty or La or De La. She's the battery and she doesn't really get her props like she should. Everyone knows Tom Silverman. Everyone doesn't know her. And she's a real one. She really knows music and culture. So fast forward, I'm an Elektra. It's I have an inauspicious debut. I'm up there. Shazzy's my first record. It's a fucking frisbee. I think I'm on the ropes, but this weird shit happens where
I remember that name, Shazzy, and it's just like And I just,
It
and I was
didn't. It
like,
didn't
oh,
pop.
that's her
It
label
didn't.
name, Shazzy.
She
Like,
she had one song they played a little bit, Jiggo, where I used a Skull Snap sample very, very early. One of the first uses of it. And they would literally play the instrumental. So you know it's fucked up when they play the instrumental on the mix show, not your record. You know that feeling? You're like, oh, they played the instrumental. That's fucked up.
wow, I haven't heard that name Shazzy in like
it's a forgettable name. She was the first Charlie Brown. That's the first artist I didn't get along with. But this record somehow ends up on two of the biggest music critics' top 10 list for the year, which is bonkers because it showed what fucking mountain climbers they were. Because the culture doesn't fuck with the record, but they're fucking with the record, right? So this Robert Christgau, he's a famous critic, and this guy named John Perellis writes for the Times. So I get to keep my job, and I have you guys coming down the pipe. You guys scared the living shit out of half of the label, which I thought was kind of amazing. I thought that was like great because you guys
used to like it to do that.
Of course. Well, look, man, people are like, I feel like rappers and fuck that, young men, black or white, when you smell blood in the water, you like to fucking, you're going to circle that shit, right? Because it's like you smell the fear. Someone's shook and your natural impulse is to be aggressive. That's just how we are as young men. We're wired to be like that on some level. And I think that you guys scared people at the label, which was fucking dope to me. Whether black or white, there was as many bougie black dudes who were scared as you as there were white publicists. And I think you guys didn't make it any easier when you swiped the car vouchers. That didn't make it any easier for me.
We didn't swipe any car vouchers.
Someone did, I think.
Swiped anything. Nobody swiped anything. Okay. Let me explain what happened.
Yeah, I want to know this because I'm always confused about it.
How the whole shit started in the first place. Okay. Now, granted, I might have been the, help develop it, but here's what happened. So, you mentioned him earlier, Raul Roach, right?
Yes. Yep.
So now the first show that we ever did, Elektra had some punk ass publicity show for us, and it was at the Brooklyn Academy of Music.
I was with you guys.
Okay. Bunch of white people in the audience. They had these masks and shit.
It was fucking super weird.
It was super weird. So we did like what, Brand Nubian and Feel So Good, maybe that might have been all we had at the time. But they was fucking with us.
They were.
So Raul Roach is there, and he got some bad look model broad with him, right? So we had took XYZ cars there, I guess, or something like that. And so now when it's time to leave at the end, he's trying to call a car, but the number's busy or some shit's happening. And he's trying to get out of here with the broad. So he's like, listen, just call this number and say Raul Roach, you know what I mean? And boom, bam, boom. You'll
the cheat code.
And so you're good, you know what I mean? So I said, all right. So boom, he left with the broad. We called, did that. Got the car. Of course, we didn't go straight home. Like back then, if you get a fucking car of that nature or something, you're going to go around with it or whatever the case may be. So for that night, we took the car, and then boom, we dropped off. So then it's like, then I'm thinking like, because you don't need they have vouchers in the car. You don't need to steal any vouchers. They just ask you to sign the voucher.
Right.
And I'm like, so
all you need is the account number, right?
All you need is the name of the of an authorized passenger.
So did you use Raul's name the whole time?
I used Raul's name till his name was no longer usable. So then, right? So then what we would do is we just go up to the office. You motherfuckers got those lists of everybody in the office. You got their name and their extension on your pasted on your fucking wall, thumbtack to your wall. your little directory. So you just go into the office, go into the directory, and pick a name. And we just pick different names. And until the name can't be used no more, till they get onto it, and we move on. Yeah, so we moved on to female names. I had Beth Jacobson, like my girl at the time was Beth Jacobson.
Did you use my name?
I don't know, probably. Like
I'm thinking I might not have been on the executive list for XYZ.
Bro, everybody on that worked on Elektra was on the list.
Amazing.
If you worked at Elektra, you could get a car.
That's amazing.
So
I wish I knew. I didn't know this scam. I wish I knew this scam.
But no. Here's the part. Here's even better part of the scam. So not are we just getting rides, right? It got to the point where I'm coordinating shit. You can't call and ask for a particular driver, but I had a rapport with this Russian driver, and so he's like, listen, I'm going to be in you tell me around what time you think you're going to need me tomorrow, and I'll be in the area. And so when you call, I'll pick up your call. You know what I mean? I'm getting this dude every day. Then I'm getting actual cash from this dude.
How did you get cash from him?
Listen. Let me put you on. And this is a scheme that can't even be done anymore. And, they already found out about it. So I'm not telling on a crime that I can get myself in trouble or anything like that. And really, it's not a crime. Y'all owed us this shit. We had to pay for it anyway in royalties. So we paid it back.
And like, let's be real, the deal, and it was the most expensive deal I've ever done in my life at that point, was peanuts.
Right. So we deserve this. So anyway, so this is how you get money. So my guy who's the driver would be like, because I don't know how, but one time I might have needed some bread. And he's like, oh, I could get you the bread. Phones was mad expensive back then, like cellular phones inside the car. And these cars had phones in them. You know what I mean? That was some fancy shit back then. So I could get like $350 a day from this dude.
A day? Wow.
He'll just get it out of his ATM and get me to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's incredible.
Yeah, and now I'm riding around, getting chauffeured around. I'm pulling up the weed spots and shit. I'm in the Bronx. I'm in Harlem. You know what I mean? I'm doing.
Incredible.
And then, but hold up, I'm the only one doing it at first. Then dudes found out, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I think I put Puba on or some shit, and then.
He goes crazy. He definitely had to. Puba's like, I'm gonna take it to the bank.
Yeah, but yeah.
Didn't someone get caught like in a car? A girl got caught in a car?
Yeah, I think so, because I was with this girl and then I broke up with her, but she was so used to using the car that
she kept using the car, right?
Kept using the car still. And this was after we had already got caught, and we was like, all right, we ain't gonna do it no more. And then they're like, yo, well, what's this address again? And I'm like, yo, you still using the fucking car? Like, you know what I mean? Fucking ass want to go to jail. You better cut this shit out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Amazing. That's amazing.
That was the last time it happened.
I had this guy who worked there. I don't think you ever met him. His name was Howard Thompson. He was an English guy, and he ran the department. He was a fucking dickhead. He was a straight up dickhead. He didn't like rap music. He didn't like me. He was probably a bigot, definitely a homophobe. He was a chump. And he sat me down and was like, your band has stolen $17,000 worth of calls. I said, really? He said, yes. Did you know about this? I was like, no, I did not know about this. This is going on their recording budget, and you are now over budget. So I'm over budget. The album's more or less done, though. We're finishing it. We go over budget, maybe $10,000. It's a $60,000 deal all in, if I'm not mistaken. So it's $70,000 to make the record.
Right.
And I had a guy next to me who signed Metallica. The officer next to me is Puerto Rican dude, Michael Lago. He's totally bugged out dude. He's super cool. And I told him, I said, Mike, I think they're going to fire me. I'm $10,000 or $11,000 over on my album budget. He goes, Metallica won $1 million over budget.
Right.
No one cares. And I was like, really? And that was like the first time I realized. That's when I realized that, like, wait, there's a whole other way to do this. Like, I'm making these records like I still work at Tommy Boy. I didn't know. And that's part of the whole thing, the way that rap worked. And I think maybe my experience was I just really didn't know a lot of shit, and I kind of made it up as I went along. Right? We all did, because there was no rule book. Where's the rule book? We never got a rule book that said, this is how you make records. This is what it costs. This is that. I really didn't know shit. I'm 24 years old, 25, 24, I think. I just didn't know any better. I didn't know how things work. I had no fucking idea.
Well, I knew enough. I knew they had enough money to, man, that shit we was doing was.
I think you guys. I'm gonna say you guys have a lot more game than me at that point in my life. And I picked up some game fucking with you guys. I mean, look, Puba had a lot of fucking game, and I definitely learned some shit from him.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. What? You know? Yeah. He definitely showed us some things.
Good. God bless.
He definitely showed us some. So
I mean, I felt like all the other acts emulated Puba's behavior once they realized there was ways to do things. They were like, "I'm gonna do it like this."
And I was going to ask you about other acts, like, because again, you go on to sign KMD, you know, Zev Love X, Sub Rock, Onyx, and you know, Zev Love X goes on to be MF Doom. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like a real
an icon, if you will.
Yeah, an icon. Then you sign Leaders of the New School.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who at the time, if everybody remembers, Charlie Brown was the one that everybody was looking at. Like that.
Nah, it was always neck and neck. I disagree with that.
I'm gonna tell you from my perspective, the streets, that whole that shit he was doing, was standing out for some reason at the time. And he's the one that I remember people first talking about. I remember there was something about Busta's voice that was interesting, but I'm telling you, I remember people talking about Charlie first. And
he was very energetic, and he was around a lot more. You know, Busta, when he signed, was in high school. He was 17.
Right.
So, you know, that may have, did the apocalypse happen now? I saw the light change. It get darker?
Yeah, I had some bugged out shit happen, man. These fucking automated lights be doing their own thing sometimes. I just
Leaders of the New School, if you remember, live were fucking incredible. They were always better live than their record. Like live, most people couldn't fuck with them. They had a crazy live show. Like they were bouncing off the walls. It was like, and they did the like Cold Crush, you know, like group vocals and shit. They had a ridiculously good show.
I didn't like their costumes though.
Yo, they wore some really weird shit. They had the shit that looked like a postal service outfit, and
they was wearing like that like the Jamaican like dance hall,
very Jamaican, custom made.
And I know that was some Busta
100%.
And he's feeling like, listen, we're entertainers, we have to entertain. I understand, but I just never liked it, and especially when we had to do shows with them. And like there were times when we're sitting backstage and we're waiting and we're like, what's the problem? Why can't we get the show started? And they're like, yeah, our costumes just arrived at the airport. And they're on the way here now. I'm like, y'all need to get on stage with what you got on right now. What the fuck are you talking about?
I need an iron. I can't go on.
Yo, I couldn't believe it. They was like, should be maybe another 30 minutes.
I remember one time they were mad. Yo, our shit's all wrinkled. We need an iron. I'm like, fuck you getting an iron for, bro? It's like, nah.
Oh man, yo, that's.
I mean, look, the Leaders was always like a handful. Like it just being, and they had the dancer, Geronimo, and there was just the whole aura was chaos. Like, and there could be a fist fight amongst them backstage at any moment. They were all scared of Milo. I don't care what any of them say. He had them all in check.
What happened to Milo?
I don't know, man. I do not know. I felt like
Milo in the dance with the new identity. Like I liked his voice and shit when he got when they. When
I didn't like
when
he rapped. When he started rapping
on that particular song.
That song was dope. That was dope.
I didn't know he really rapped like that, but I'm just saying I liked his voice. I'm not gonna say he was the best, but on that song he was all right. Like
by the time they did the second record, it was just a free for all. Like I don't care what anyone says, it was a free for all. It was a free for all. It was fucking everyone's going for self. Buster knows he's a star, and he's sitting there like being very loyal, but the resentment is building. And Brown and him were like, oil and water. Like they couldn't be in the same room together. It was just like it was. I've refereed multiple altercations between them. We've all seen it.
See, what I'm getting at is like you sign all these groups, and then people from each group kind of almost go on to do even more, kind of. You know what I mean? Like,
100%.
Do you feel like you were able to possibly see some of this in people earlier, or just people kind of surprised you as they got older and should be like,
it's each situation is different. I knew Buster was a star. Like I knew Buster was a star. Like, and by the time the second record comes out, when they perform live, the energy just goes up every time he gets on stage. Tip is in my ear. Your man's the man. Scenario is the gift and the curse. Biggest record they ever have. The one that causes the most dissension within the group. So he's clearly the star. Diddy is in my ear. Yo, what are you doing with Buster? Chris Lighty and me we start to, I don't want to say conspire, but we're like, time for a solo Buster album. The second record gets made. It's not good. I send them back to do it again. I tried to bring in Q-Tip. They all tell me no, except Buster. So I say, oh, he's smarter than everyone already, because the guy who made their biggest record, Scenario, is down to fix the whole record. They don't want to hear it except Buster. So I'm like, okay, not only is he the star, he's smarter, politician, and we know what's going to happen. Second record comes back again. It's marginally better. I know it's not going to pop off. It's not the record they needed to make to level up. And the rest is what it was. And Buster is, we greenlight him to do the record. It takes him 2 years to make the record and put it out. By the time he puts the record out, I don't even work there anymore. I start making it. I'm midway through, but I have a new boss and I don't want to work for her anymore. She's not that nice to me. And Zev is different, because I always tell this to people. Doom is my friend, but I worked with Zev at Love X. I didn't work with MF Doom. And he remained my friend till the day he passed. Like I spoke to him a few weeks before he passed. He was fucking amazing. And he's also like a metaphor for a lot of, like a lot of shit. You hand someone the worst piece of bullshit in the whole world. His brother dies. He gets dropped from his label. He's blackballed from the industry. And he disappears for a few years. And he takes all the bullshit that was subjected to him and he reinvents himself as MF Doom. And that's all the like fuel to his fire, right? He takes all the pain and suffering and all the unfair shit that happened to him, and he becomes a much more important artist. And he's a lot like Puba in the sense that he's always, he was like, he's a hustle master. He had a lot of hustles, and MF Doom is a testament to his reinvention and his hustle. And I did not see that in the cards, because no one can see that in the cards. That's some like thing that no one's really ever done before or since, and may never ever do it again. He's a unique figure in the history of rap music, and I think a much more important artist when he's MF Doom than he's in KMD than Zev Love X. He's great as Zev Love X, and there are moments when he hints towards Doom, whether it's a God Squad or other things. But when he becomes Doom, it's a whole different ballgame.
See, it's funny because when we first went on tour with them, I remember doing like I think a West Coast tour, and it was us, KMD, and Leaders of the New School.
In the one bus.
In the one fucking bus with all kind of flowers and all kind of shit going on. And I remember at the beginning of that tour, KMD used to perform with these white robes. Like, they were down with like the Ansar community.
Ansar Allah, exactly.
And they used to have like white kufis with white robes. and they would perform with this on. By the time the tour was over, by them just like because we was headlining it, you know what I mean? And so we're going last, and they're just seeing how we're dressing and how we're moving. And towards the end of the tour, these dudes took off those white robes, and they didn't start smoking weed, but they had started drinking wine.
They loved sweet premium wine.
They started drinking wine, and and I was just like, oh, I wasn't sure if that was good or bad. Like, but I feel like their shows improved actually when they did that.
I think they got seasoned. They saw you guys and they loosened up. They were a little tight.
Yeah, they were a little tight.
And they saw a different thing. And Doom was never, like, as people, they weren't tight, but you're right. There was some, they were very involved in the Answer Allah thing. They followed Dr. York, and they were, I guess a little tight is the best way to describe it. And
by the time it becomes Doom, he's like super
loose. He's loose.
He's like super loose. Like I'm like, he sound like one of these dudes, one of these Rikers Island dudes. Like it was crazy. Like
I felt like Black Bastards was much looser. It was a much better record than Mr. Hood. It was more spontaneous in the moment. They had they hung out with CM Mob a lot uptown. They were with George and Grimm and Rock Raider and my man T, rest in peace, One Eye T, and Jay Black, rest in peace. These cats we knew, Wild Street dudes. But just funny cats, and they were in this world that was like they were taking a lot of psychedelics. They were taking acid and eating mushrooms and hanging out with Dell, and they had Onyx wasn't in the group anymore. They both had kids. A whole lot had happened in that period between the two albums, right? And then Black Bastards I thought was much better than Mr. Hood, and I had high aspirations for it. I think it was going to get 5 stars in the source because they loved it. It was either 4.5 or 5 stars. And it had the energy around the record before it came out was big. Like people were fucking with it. Like motherfuckers like this shit is dope. And the shit hit the fan with that record. It all went shitty.
I feel like I remember thinking, why are they naming it that? You know what I mean?
Why did you feel that?
I don't know. It just like, I don't know. They used to have, see, that's what I'm saying. Like when a lot of this shit is in your head and you're not fully explaining
right
shit, it gets in muddy waters.
Right.
So
well, because
that imagery of like a Sambo looking character with, lynchings and all of this type of shit. And, and then you say Black Bastard, like I know there's some people in the chat right now that's just cringing that there's a white man right now in here saying Black Bastard.
I mean, you're right. It's an uncomfortable thing to say.
Like,
but to me, so by the fact that it's uncomfortable and that you have feelings about it says to me that it's valid. That means it's valid because there is dialogue, right? It's good.
I mean, I can say that about anything.
It's good to make motherfuckers uncomfortable, I think. And his science, and I'm sure you know this by now, is it's the game Hangman that we all play as a child, right? That fucking game where you hang the dude. And it is the metaphor is saying death to the Sambo character, death to this school of thought. We are ending it now. And this is all over. It's a new day, a new KMD, and we are saying bye-bye. And yep, fuck you, you black bastards, basically is what he's saying. Like that sentiment doesn't exist anymore. We're killing it. And I think that no one allowed him to explain his science behind it. No one gave him an audience. I knew what it was about. He had created all his artwork his entire life for all of his music. So his messaging was all personal and his iconography was all tied to a philosophy behind it. There was science to it. It wasn't just bullshit. So, you know, for him to be convicted without investigation, not given an audience to explain his rhetoric, what it was about, I think was a huge injustice. And it's not necessarily for me to explain it, though he's not here to explain it. So I do the best I can. And some things should not be said by, some things are better said by a black person than a white person. This is one of those things, but he's not here to say it. So I just have to explain his rhetoric for him, you know, because I think there's, I defend all my artist art, right or wrong. So did I agree with you and Punks when you said, you know, fuck up a F? Well, back then I didn't think about it, but now in 2023, as a grown man, we evolve, and I probably don't agree with that sentiment. But if you wanted to say it today, I would say that's what you want to say it, because I don't censor art. So I don't censor MF Doom's messaging. I wouldn't censor your messaging or any artist, because for me, that's not the way to go. Not how you go. I seen someone's mad. He said, I'm loose at the mouth. You could think whatever you want to think of. That's, you know, that's cool. You're allowed to have your perspective. But, you know, I will say this one time and one time only. I'm not a sucker. And anything I say here, I'll say to anyone, anywhere, at any time. So you should know that. I'm not a sucker. So don't get it fucked up. I'm an older man, but I'm not a sucker. I'll leave it at that. And Jay, you know, good to have this dialogue with you about this, because your perspective is probably more important on it than mine is. I just was defending his art, and I'll defend it to the day I die, because I believed in his right to say what he wants to say. I see a lot of the comments, and you know what? I'm going to explain something to you about Corey, specifically about Black Bastards. Do you want to know who threw Black Bastards to the wolf? Who's the reason that this record didn't come out? A black woman named Terry Rossi, who wrote for Billboard. She wrote for the Monday Morning Monitor, and she's the one who took offense to the record cover. And a guy named Havelock Nelson, who wrote the wrap-up. And he is the man who threw it to the wolves. And it all started from there. And the people who were vehemently opposed to him even changing the art or talk to him about the messaging were Sylvia Rhone and Dick Parsons, who also worked at the Warner Music Group. So it was a very controversial and crazy moment in time. He caught the body because of Ice-T's body, Cop Killer. It came out 8 months after Cop Killer. So Warner Music Group had already bowed down to censorship. So we got scared, not me, but people within the Warner Music Group were scared. Sylvia Rhone, Dick Parsons, and they bowed down to the two reporters from Billboard, and the record never came out. So, and by no means am I mad. I'm just explaining it. I'm explaining the rhetoric. I can hear you 100%. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
I hear. And I got the thing, your connection acted up.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, my shit was bugging out for a second. It said it.
You know, so I don't know if everyone heard what I said, but
no, I heard everything. I heard everything that you said.
You know, and I just say it because the story is complicated. And look, the person who really suffered the most was Doom, who had just lost his brother. And if this doesn't happen, Doom doesn't become MF Doom. So by no means am I saying that this was a positive. It was completely a negative injustice, but it is part of Doom's origin story and a very important part of it. If all this doesn't happen, he doesn't disappear and come back as MF Doom. So.
Right. Everything happens for a reason, man. One door closes so that you're forced to walk through another sometimes. And, you know, at the time, it's hard to see these reasons. But, you know, hindsight is 2020. Now we see why it happened. Now we see, you know, why why the villain had to be scorned and then come out as, you know what I mean? MF.
This one dude is really on it, man. He really he's throwing a lot of shots. It's cool. You can throw all the shots you want.
I mean, really you ain't even got to read all of these fucking.
Yeah, I ain't reading none of that shit.
Tell me about the book real quick, man.
Yeah. Let's talk about the book.
What made you write a book? First of all, I just want to say that you got to be one of the legendary A&Rs in the game.
Thank you.
I saw a post from a guy I respect, Orlando Wharton.
Yeah, that's my man.
And he was like, yo, my top A&Rs of all time, and you were in the list. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I thought that was dope. And I love what he's doing.
Yeah, well, he's a real one. And he does
I'd like to give him.
He does he's like an A&R like I was, you know, like I try to be. He's at every session, he's connected to the artist. He has a relationship with the artist that supersedes the label, right? He's embedded in their way that they move, right? So even with you guys, I loved running around with you guys and being at the shows. And if shit jumped off, well, I'm right with you, right? Like I'm fucking with you guys. Like, and he's that kind of A&R guy. And when he was first starting out in the game, you see a real one, and he was a real one. And I liked the way he moved. I liked his just whole style was official to me. And we just always, when he first came to Warner, we were cool. I was cool with him before that when he was messing around with Ransom. He's a fucking real one. He's a good dude. So he put me on there because, he also has always picked my brain, and I learned a lot from him, but I taught him a few things. So, and if you're a real one, I have no problem sharing any of my knowledge with you. And I'm going to learn something from you, because that's the way this thing goes. It's a fair exchange of knowledge with youth and the older dudes. And, if you're a real one in this culture, you're always down to, give it back, because people gave it to me for free. That's how it works.
Right. Well, I'm not going to lie. I always fancied myself as an A&R who's never worked at a label.
Of course. You know what I mean? Of course you are. I mean, I saw you do Dead Press.
Man, first of all, but I've done other shit that didn't come to fruition, like that you didn't even know I had my hands in. Like was fucking with DMX before DMX was DMX. You understand what I'm saying? Like Black Rob, I was fucking with before when he was Bacardi Rob. But I had enough sense to know when guys are not ready either. Like, you know what I mean?
I saw you bring Stove God through. Right. Exactly. I saw you had Stove God in front of all of us.
And that was the most recent, you know what I mean?
That was surreal, to be honest, because you and Buster walk in with Stove God, and we're in this big corporate Atlantic Records A&R meeting, and you and Buster are talking to me like we're in my office at Elektra about to smoke a blunt in 1994. and
that was crazy.
And DJ Drama is like, Jesus Christ. Like he was like, yo, Jesus Christ, that was wild.
That was wild. That was wild. With Mike Kaiser was in there right?
I don't think was Kaiser there. Julie was there. I don't know if Kaiser was there. He may have been. I know Riggs was there. Drama, Craig Kalman. Was Orlando there? He was there too, right?
See, I didn't know Orlando at the time.
He was there too. He was there.
See, I didn't even know.
And I remember after the meeting, Drama and Riggs were both like, wow. But Drama, who is a real one too, I've known him a long time, and he's really in this music shit. Like he's about it. He was like, because he's older and he loves Brand Nubian. He was like, yo, D, that was crazy. He was like, that was wild. It was cool. That was like a full circle moment in time. You don't get many of those.
Right. Well, yeah, man. Well, now I got a guy named Great God, man, who was.
I got to hear it.
Bananas.
Let me know. I got a thing. We'll talk offline, but I got a little open door thing for you that if you guys want to use it, there's a couple bucks for you to pick up with no strings attached. So you'll let me know.
Oh shit, let's go.
Yeah, man. And look, Jay, our relationship has always been it started out crazy. I always had the utmost respect for you because you're about your shit. And not everyone's about their shit. And I always also, the other things, when you talk about the guest in the house, to me, that's like the best metaphor for this. I absolutely, and I saw a couple of people also have said the same thing. And I think, look, Macklemore's he's my friend. I think he went at it and his answer was a little full of white guilt. Mine is not necessarily full of that, as in the same sense. I'm not born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I'm a blue collar kid. I have a different existence than him. But one of the greatest honors in my life is being able to contribute to the culture and the art, and to be allowed to be a guest in the house, to contribute in a small way to a much, much bigger picture. And to me, that's one of the greatest honors in my whole life. You know, it's like I got to be accepted in a place where many people of my color do not get accepted, or they don't know how to move. And I was allowed to move properly. And I was taught how to move properly by people like you, Jam Master Jay, DMC, Russell, Andre Harrell, lots of other people taught me how to move. Even Latifah, people who were younger than me, and the whole thing. I was taught to conduct myself properly as a child as well. And it's a great honor to be allowed to be a guest who can contribute something into the house of hip hop. That's everything to me. And at the end of the day, I always want to be remembered as someone who acknowledged that and contributed a little bit to the big picture.
You know, I think, first of all, I think your age and when you entered into it has a lot to do with it. You know, the fact that you were exposed to the, you know, Funky 4 plus One More and Cold Crush and all that type of shit. To really understand its origins. Whereas you have the newer generation who kind of feels entitled to it, kind of feels like, well, this is all our shit, right? Like, you know, like, you know, it is, but it isn't. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not saying, and I hate when people try to misconstrue my words and say that, because yes, I have changed my tone as far as white people making hip hop. You know what I mean? I see plenty of dope white producers, you know what I mean, that can make some dope ass beats, dope white rappers and all of that type of shit. Yeah. Boom. That's so, but back in the days, I would have been like, oh hell, fucking no.
I mean, hip hop is a black art, just like jazz. Like, there's no two ways about it. And you know, if people like me or Alchemist or Muggs or whomever it is are allowed to be Bill Evans, if you will, or someone of that nature, God bless. You know what I mean? But we also all acknowledge, much like I'm sure Bill Evans did, that jazz was a black art form and hip hop is a black art form. There's no two ways about it. And anyone who says anything else is kind of stupid and also probably white. You know what I mean? Like the whole, like, I don't see color in music and all that. That's just not how it works. It's a nice idea, but that's not the way life works. That's not the world at large.
Okay. So again, tell us about the book. What made you start writing a book?
So my dad's a writer. He wrote, you know, he's published like 15, 14 books in his life. My dad got sick. He had cancer first time. And after chemotherapy and when he's in remission, he was like, yo, we should write a book together because we both had really interesting lives. And I wasn't necessarily raised with him. So we went to write the book, and he got sick again. And I put the book down because I had to take care of my pops. He eventually passed away of cancer, liver cancer. So I put the book down for I looked at it, I was like, I put it in the shelf, in the drawer. I'm not fucking with this. It was too painful. And as we fast forwarded, you know, almost 7-8 years, his dear friend of mine got sick, and he was like, yo, you know, the book you started with your dad, you need to fuck with that. You need to get that testament down. So I went back to it and revisited it. And he got sick and he passed. And I went through some shit, how do you say, I felt like a struggle rapper on an independent label. Like I had bullshit.
Did you already have a publisher for this?
So here's the thing. I had a lead agent, and Dan Charnas helped me get to a publisher who he had a standing offer for me the whole time. I got a lead agent, and he was like, oh, this book, I can make it. You can get $100,000 for this book. And he tried to bring in this other dude to help me out. He was like my A&R guy. I was the artist for once. He was a shitty ass A&R guy. He brought in this guy who was doing a remix on my book, and he tried to change the title to Beat Boss. I was like, fuck out of here with that bullshit. it was like you would like, I'm like, wake up. And you're like, nah, B. So
Right.
I shut him.
My dead body.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, shut him down, kicked him out the picture, fired the lead agent. I got this other lead agent who became my good friend. He knew my dad. This guy Kirby Kim. He's an ace. He worked out my standing deal that was there, and then he did the wildest thing. He didn't take any money for it. He did it on the arm because she's like, I just want your book to come out. I don't need those. I don't need that. This is. He didn't say for the culture, but this is, this is my gift to you. So, I got the publisher. I put it out just recently, and I think the reason the pandemic had a lot to do with it. I really rewrote the book during the pandemic because one, we have nothing to do, and two, so many people died around me that I felt it was important for me, even if only 3 people read the book, that I get my story on paper and out there, a lasting testament to my story. Because, I lost both my partners who I made music with. Gibby DeJohnny and John Gamble died. My good friend Keith Huffnagel died. My friend Gabby died. My godfather died. It was a year of death. And of course, Doom died. So I was like, you know what? Let me talk my shit and get it on paper before I might check out, because you never know at this age. I'm in good health. I always have taken care of myself. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I eat very, I eat righteously. I meditate. I do all this stuff for mental and physical health, but still, you could die in your sleep at any moment. Who the hell knows what could happen? And also, dudes who abuse their body the whole life live to 85. You never know. Luck of the draw. So I felt I needed to do it because who the hell knows? I could be out here tomorrow. So I did it. And I like the end result. Look, if I could do it again, I'm a better writer now. I sold the screenplay since then. I have a bunch of shit I've written that I'm developing, like for serious people. I've learned to write better. I can do a lot more with less words now. But this book is where it is. It's kind of like making your first record. Your first record's raw, unrefined. Your second one is probably better technically, maybe not as soulful. So these are the.
Are you planning on writing another book?
I'm in the middle of the second book. It's short stories that I've written over the last 10 years, 160 pages in, 6 stories. It will be 8 to 12 stories when I'm done. And they're fiction. They're fiction based on real life. So augmented fiction, I guess.
Now, let me ask you real quick. Have the authorities ever asked you about that sign that's behind you, that 161st Street sign?
No, they have not. And it came to me from a source I will leave nameless, a graffiti guy. I went to his house and he had many signs. And I was like, I like that sign. He's like, you like that, D? He said, if you could get it to your house, it's yours.
Right.
So I hired a man with a van.
Safely.
Yep. I hired a man with the van. He came and picked it up and I took it. It was like $30. So.
Oh shit. That's funny as fuck. So, okay, here's what I want to ask you.
Okay.
So you ended up having great success, right? With Everlast.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where y'all did, what'd you do? Like a folk? It's more folky.
Nah, I would say it's like singer-songwriter, like singer-songwriter, like kind of like Bob Dylan, Neil Young type of thing with hip-hop elements to it,
Right. Now, let me see. I feel like a lot of times when white rappers, and I'm going to be honest, the only one that hasn't really done it is Eminem.
It's true. But M does kind of.
So I just want to say, let me just spell it out there. A lot of times when white rappers, when their success has, finished in the mainstream rap genre, they will move into a next genre, be it rock or some sort of soft rock, folk, or some shit like that. And Everlast definitely did that. Kid Rock did it.
Yeah.
You see Machine
Machine
Gun
Gun
Kelly
Kelly.
has
Yeah.
done it recently.
I mean, one could say the Beasties did it. I mean, they made hip hop, but they played
They
instruments.
absolutely did it. Rick Rubin, shit, was probably the first one to do it.
He's the role model for sure.
So I'm just saying, like, what do you think about that? And do you see how that wouldn't be so easy for your average Black artist to just now go into another genre and be successful?
So when you were talking about it, I started thinking, like, is there any Black artist who did that? Is there any Black guy who like became an R&B singer, like after he was a rapper and successful? So I know Music Soul Child was a human beatbox, and a very good one, apparently. Yeah, he was really good, supposedly.
Okay.
But and he rapped, but he wasn't successful as that. He became successful as Music Soul Child. And I really can't find because I was just thinking about it right now in the memory banks, a Black artist who did that. So there's Black artists who have obviously, you know, Black people invented rock and roll, right? So rock and roll is Black music. And we all know this, even though they try to rewrite that shit. Chuck Berry's the king of rock and roll, fuck Elvis, blah, blah, blah. But that said, I can't think of a Black artist who did that. And I would say that is a tricky, there's a lot of landmines in this combo. I'm gonna try to avoid.
Let's keep it real. Is that part?
Yeah,
is that part of white privilege?
I think it. You know, I have to say it probably is part of white privilege, and I think as white people, we probably have to call it out. I can't think of Mos Def tried to do it, but I want to say that Mos Def wasn't successful at it because of Mos Def, not because of the music he made. I think Mos Def. Very chaotic, not that focused in his attempt to do Jack Johnson. So I thought that could have worked, but it didn't.
Even if you name one Black artist that did it, that would be an anecdotal story. You see what I'm saying? Like that would just be one out of. I named, you know, a bunch of white artists that were able to do this. And see, that kind of goes to show, like,
that's a double standard.
See, because in a way, certain artists are cosplaying, you know.
Do you think the Beastie Boys were cosplaying in Everlast?
Do I think they were I mean, with their rap persona, in a way, they were having fun with Black culture, like especially the Beastie Boys. They definitely were having fun.
I mean, the Beastie Boys, like it was almost a joke in the beginning. Let's be
right. The way it's in drinking brew, you know, like from around the way, like if you was from New York, around the way meant Brooklyn, like, but only you had to be from New York to even know what around the way really meant. Yeah, and I just feel like, so it's kind of like, all right.
So let me explain a little bit.
I just want to give an analogy real quick. So what I'm saying is, it's like the dude who wants to pretend he's a gangster, but then when the shit hits the fan, it's like, now you pulling off the rag. I ain't no gangster, and you know, I'm over here, like, you know, I'm just a rapper, like, you know what I mean, like,
yeah.
So it's kind of like, once your shit is over playing around and you've rinked all the fame that the Black people is going to give you, now it's like, all right, well, now I'm going to come home, you know, now I'm going to come to my senses, you know. I know I was acting real crazy when I was over there with those Black people, but now I'm going to come home. Please reward me. Like,
so to me, that's a funny, like,
funny take on
caricature is funny. It makes me laugh. So I think a couple of things. So guys like the Beastie Boys, they played instruments. They were musicians before they rapped.
Right.
They kind of never fronted like they weren't musicians. And they reinvented themselves playing music and rapping at the same time. And they created a hybrid that was pretty unique. And I feel earnest. I don't think it was exploitive of rap culture. To me, it wasn't. And I would think.
Well, that's what they did later on.
Right, but I'm going to say that, like, I think License to Ill, maybe it was exploitive. And I think that Russell Simmons probably encouraged some of that. To be honest, he saw the dollar signs.
Right.
So
what I'm saying is, if hip hop culture would have really embraced the Beastie Boys like we did in License to Ill, because I'm going to tell you, they're one of the only white boy, like, I was in the quarters. Hold it now, hit it.
Yeah, that shit was banging.
Shit that they would play for real. So, and no, I don't know a lot of other white rappers that could say that, because they damn sure don't play Eminem in the club, but that's a whole nother thing.
I mean, you're right. I mean, they played that record, and they also played Paul Revere.
Yes.
Like, and that shit would make people go crazy.
Those two joints are the ones they played. But yeah, I say that to say, so now imagine that we embrace them more. Like, would they have gone on over to those instruments and all, or would they have kept trying to do, you see what I'm saying?
Well, I know
fucking with you anymore.
And you're right. Their second album was a flop. Paul's Boutique, as good as it is, but they picked up instruments because that record flopped. And they were like, what do we do now? Well, let's do some shit. And to me, it wasn't contrived. It was just them going like, let's reinvent ourselves and see what we come up with. Right. It was
let's reinvent ourselves. And since we are white and have a lot of white fans, what else do white people like besides hip hop that we can kind of tap into?
Well, so I don't think
a black artist, I'm just saying, I can't easily be like, well, now since I'm black, what else? Like, I can't jump over to reggae if I want. You know what I mean? Like,
well, you could if you tried, maybe.
I mean, I could if I tried, but
has anyone tried?
It would be harder for me. Like, you know what I mean?
It would be harder culturally, because also
reggae, you
got to be Jamaican to really do reggae. That's it. Like,
kind of, like,
I mean,
or some sort of Caribbean, like, you know what I mean? And even though I have going back, I'm from New York, like, you know what I mean? I grew up here, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have no family members that have accents. So
I thought of one black artist who did this.
Who?
Ice-T, Body Count. And he will go on tour and sell out 3,000, 5,000 CDs.
Yes.
His Body Count shit is popping. And it's more popping now than even ever. He won a Grammy a couple of years ago for Best Heavy Metal Record. So Ice is the one guy who came to mind. And Ice-T loves hard rock. Like, he loves that shit. He's always been a fan of Slayer and all this shit. So he's the one guy I could think of. And he's also Ice-T. And you can't really compare him to anyone. Does that make sense? He's a very
and that's why I said it's an anecdotal story. I said it is an
anecdotal
story. If you come up with one, then it's going to be you came up with one. Good job. But that
you think it's funny that he made heavy metal, like hard rock, as opposed to R&B? Because the natural thing would be for someone who's a rapper to maybe switch it up. You know, Big Daddy Kane, right? If you could sing, could maybe have been like, you know, Bobby Brown or some shit. He could have came out and made R&B records, but he didn't. And I've never seen anyone do it. And I can't tell you why that is. It seems like if someone was talented enough to do it, it would work, but I've never seen it work. I've never seen anyone even try.
Hip hop has more of a rock and roll. If you're going to describe the energy, you know, then it would be more likened to rock and roll than to R&B. That's why it made sense for Ice-T to do fucking rock and roll, because I've been overseas and people do mosh pits to hip hop the same way they do mosh pits to fucking rock and roll and shit. And there's times when you're on stage feeling like a fucking rock star, like, you know what I mean? Like,
so look where we are now though with the kids, right? So I'll couple of people examples. XXX Extension, like him or not, he made like emo. He had records that were emo pop rock records, like emo ass rock records that were big records. And then Tyler, the Creator, is another chamber of that, right? He does something that's almost undefinable. And I don't want to say rock and roll, but has a very rock and roll appeal. And then there's bands like Horror, which are like, or City Morgue, or even fucking 6ix9ine for that matter, that feel to me more rock and roll than hip hop. Am I wrong in thinking this? And I think these records were embraced by the kids who listen to a lot of emo, kind of like Southern California driven punk rock, like stuff like Paramore and all this other stuff. There's a whole world of rap that feels very connected to that shit right now. And I don't know if that fits into this paradigm, but I think it's adjacent to that. So, and maybe that's generational, and it doesn't really answer your question necessarily. But XXX did make pretty much an emo rock record that was huge. So I do think that also it's cultural. I think white kids are raised with their parents' music. Most of their parents listen to white music, right? So maybe they had a Stevie Wonder record, but they probably listened to Led Zeppelin and Johnny Cash or whatever the fuck's in the house. My parents listen to everything. So I think that that's
my parents listen to everything. I had Fleetwood Mac in the crib right next to fucking James Brown.
Did you listen to Fleetwood Mac yourself?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. You know, see, you don't know about me. Like, there's a lot of shit you don't know about me, Dante.
I'm just curious. I'm curious
like,
about
growing up in Nourish Shell. Like, there's a lot of mixed shit going on. Like, so
there's a lot of white people in New Rochelle.
Exactly. So a lot of
Jewish people in New Rochelle.
Were white, Spanish, fucking all kind of shit. So I say that to say I used to like Kiss when I was a kid.
I like Kiss too, but I don't think I like the music. I like the theatrics.
I like the theatrics. Well, it was hard to me too, like hot as hell, like some shit like that. Like,
I mean, in a way,
it was hard to me when I was young.
It's like rap in a way, right? Because it's antisocial.
Yes.
You know, Kiss. When I saw Kiss, I saw Parliament Funkadelic the same year or a year later. And I felt like they were similar live stage shows. I was like, this shit is like super theatrical. It's amazing. And Earth, Wind, and Fire too, I saw when I was a kid. It all, to me, seems similar.
Yeah, I just say that to say, like, you know,
I think you're right. I think you know,
it's just not so easy for a black man to do some shit like that. That's all.
I think virtually impossible. And I think you're right. I think that it's twofold. There is some white privilege involved, and I also think that cats are leaning into a lot of the culture that they were listening to before they discovered hip hop, right? Because not everyone discovers hip hop at the same time. So I can't. Machine Gun Kelly's a wild card in the mix because he went punk rock, and he's so much younger than not punk rock, but like emo core, and he's so much younger than us. I don't know what he was raised with. It makes sense that he makes the music he makes if I think about his age, because he probably was into the Paramores and the Blink 182s of the world before he rapped. Everlast is a unique individual because I feel like his connection to hip hop is very honest and real. He has told me many times that he listened to AC/DC and bands like that. And then Run DMC came out and it flipped his way again. He never looked back at that stuff again. But he grew up with his dad who played guitar and played Neil Young and Johnny Cash songs. And he learned how to play guitar as a child.
I remember Cheap Trick. Remember Cheap Trick?
Of course. Live at Budokan. Fucking Mommy's All Right. Of course I remember that. I remember, and I also remember records like Fly Like an Eagle that somehow was played on black radio. You know, we always had these, or Hall & Oates. So, because I grew up on WABC. I don't know if you listened to that when you were a kid.
Yes, I did. See, I didn't discover, my mom's listened to AB, like I didn't discover FM till later. Like I didn't live in a regular black household. Like my mom was weird. She listened to country music. She listened to all kind of shit. Like, and so I remember listening to like Top 40 radio.
Right. I remember the Top 40 show that came on Sunday when I was a kid.
But we had James Brown records, and I loved the James Brown records because they had a black man's face on the record. And I was like, wow, this motherfucker's so famous. He got his face on the record. Wow. This is crazy.
I like James Brown because my sister liked it. And when her friends would come over, that's what they play, and they dance around the house. So James Brown was like in the DNA of my house as a child. My mom was more Aretha Franklin, Nina Simone, but she liked everything too. And it doesn't answer your question. And I think I'm not answering the question because I don't necessarily have an answer because I haven't really thought about the question ever before.
But you acknowledge it exists.
Oh, yes. 100%. Look, if as white people, if we don't acknowledge white privilege, we're doing a disservice to black people. So we have to acknowledge it, and I acknowledge it emphatically. And this is an example of it that I probably had never seen before. And I thank you for showing me this. It's something to look at. And I think like I thought about this a lot more the last 10 years because it's been more important maybe than it have been. When you see young black people getting killed fucking all the time, you have to really look at yourself and question your white privilege because, it's not accidental that young white kids are not getting killed like that by white people. This is the worst and furthermost example of white privilege that we can see. The one that we all can see, but the clandestine ones, the subtler ones, like the point you're bringing up, I don't necessarily see that stuff. So it's good to get my coat pulled on it and to see it. And I don't know what the answer is. And maybe it's not for me to have the answer.
Maybe it's not an answer. It's not necessarily an answer. I'm just brought it up. You know,
I think it's interesting. I think it does exist. I think it does exist, and I think that it's not fair. Maybe we need more body counts. It's funny too. Here's an example, but they weren't rappers. So my favorite punk rock band of all time is the Bad Brains. They're black dudes, right? I would have loved them if they were green, but their music is so good, I think, because they're black dudes. They're funkier. There's a funk in the crazy punk rock shit they're doing that no other punk rock band ever had. So, I mean, and the inverse of that is I didn't love Living Color. They didn't have that funk to me.
I feel you. Well, see, now when I think about it, if I want to give you like a kudos, I could say I can't think of a band, a group, an artist that you signed that necessarily contributed to the bullshit.
I mean, I never signed a gangster rapper. That's not me. Like
you never signed no murder music. Did you sign Dell as well? Dell, funky Homo sapien?
Of course.
Right. So
I wouldn't sign murder music because that's not my wheelhouse. It's not even conscious.
Hang on, let's clap it up for that. Yeah. Never signed no murder music.
It's not a conscious decision. You know what I mean? It just is. Like I never, in the band I tried to sign, and Bob Krause on 2 bands he wouldn't let me sign. Cypress Hill because of Kill a Man, because it was controversial, and he didn't let me sign the Gravediggers because of 1-800-Suicide. He's like, I'm not signing this record. They have a song in there. It's like, it's pro-suicide. And I was like, no, it isn't. And he was like, I'm not signing this. So he wouldn't let me sign those 2 groups. And I wish I had signed them both. I mean, Cypress Hill should have been on Elektra. They would have fit in with everything.
I mean, I used to be hanging with fucking Be Real. Like,
I remember the record you guys. I remember the record you guys made, Spark Another L.
Come on, man, that was the shit. Like, yeah, man.
They're a unique group. Cypress Hill, I was with Be Real last night. I did this thing at Barnes and Nobles, and to me, they might have been the West Coast group that had the most East Coast vibes, if that makes any sense. Souls of Mission,
their music when I first heard their shit, I was sold. I was like,
yeah, me too, man. I was blown away. The demo was kind of the album too, and that's what pisses me off because they had Hand on a Pump and Killer Man were on the demo. So fuck, I should have quit my job and took it somewhere. Who the fuck knows? but I did sign Dell, and murder music doesn't appeal to me. That's just not. I don't. I listen to NWA. I like NWA. I like some gangster rap. I don't really feel like that's what I'm supposed to do. I can't explain other than that. It's like it's not. I never thought about it too much because it's just not what I'm supposed to do. I don't think. I would have signed Ice Cube if I could have, though. But and then that's the other thing: is the music important? Ice Cube was important, right?
Yeah.
So
listen, I loved fucking America's Most Wanted.
Didn't we all love America's Most Wanted?
Sheesh.
I think it was lovable. I think the other thing was NWA was, like spoke of California. New York always fronts on this, but New York was late on the first NWA album. Like, there's like, I love the NWA. It's like, no, you didn't. There's like 3 people who knew NWA in New York. I was one of the 3. Chuck D and Hank were probably the other 2. So, you know, I don't know. Murder Music Game for me. And this is what I want to say. You were the first person I knew who loved OutKast. You're the first person when OutKast first came out. You were like, yo, the motherfuckers is dope. I remember the shit was on I had the TV in the office. I had Yo MTV Raps on all the time. And that shit came on. You was like, turn that shit up. Southern Playalistic. I was like, yeah, that shit's funky. You were like, yo, that shit is funky. And I was like, yeah, I like that. I remember that. But you were like the
when
first
the album
one.
dropped, boy, I was on it.
You were the first dude. The first dude I knew who was really riding for OutKast in all of New York City is Lord Jamar.
I was riding for UGK early. I was riding for Spice One. See, I fucked with a lot of outside of New York shit before niggas in New York was doing that. Like, they was just only New York. And I had certain artists that I was like, nah, this is crazy. Like, when I first heard Pocket Full of Stones, I was like, yo.
That's funny you say that, because they were on a promo tour with Souls of Mischief, of all people, 1993. And that's when I got hip to UGK. And I met Bun in New York. And A+ of all people from Souls of Mischief in a hotel room was like, yo, you heard UGK? I was like, who's that? Like, I didn't really know who they were. And we were stoned. And he's like, yo, they're in the hotel. They're going to come through in a minute. And they came through and I met them. Pimp C wasn't there. It was only Bun B. And I was like, oh shit. And what bugged me out about them too is they were sampling Meters records and all the shit that we were sampling. And also, like you, I could hear someone who could rap. They could rap, right? MJG and 8-Ball could rap. Scarface could rap, right? So, you know, you can always hear dudes who could rap. Like, it's not hard to tell.
Yeah, man. We used to have fucking freestyle sessions in hotel rooms, and them dudes was dope, man. Especially Bun was really crazy with it, but Pimp C could fucking rap too. But he was like the mind. He was the brain behind the.
He's the sound too. He's the sound of it all.
The music and the production
and the singing shit, the high pitched voice. Like, he's just like, yeah, he's iconic. I mean, UGK's music too. They're one of those groups. They got better with time, if that makes sense. Like, the world caught up to them. Yeah. They were like ahead of everybody.
Facts. Damn, man. We definitely went for a while, man. It's like,
yeah, man. We talked for a long time.
Man. Shit.
and I gotta be somewhere at 3:00. So I gotta.
Yeah.
I gotta get
man.
moving.
Well, this was great, man. I enjoyed this, man.
Oh, I want to ask you, who are the other brave Caucasians who entered the Lions Den?
Well, you know, my guy I don't really fuck with no more. V-Lad was up here.
Okay.
He came live to the shit before. Who was up here? Tupac's brother Mopreme came up here with this lady. I forget what that was about. Who else? I'm not remembering. But definitely
they're not memorable.
Yeah, they're not gonna be as memorable as this. Because see, up here we like that real hip-hop information. Like, I try to get a lot of like classic people up here, you know what I mean? Like the real foundational people, like, of this hip-hop shit. So, you know, Kaz.
You need to get Pete Nice up here.
Yo, you know what's crazy? I just saw a video of Pete Nice with a fucking beard rhyming or some shit somewhere, looking like he didn't really want to rhyme, but like somebody made him say his little verse real quick. Yo, that'll be kind of, if he got an ill story. Wait, did I?
You know what he does now, right? He helps run the Universal Hip Hop Museum.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because he's a huge collector of hip hop memorabilia, like one of the foremost in the whole world. So he gave all his collection to the museum. So he
just gave it to them. They ain't giving
no
paper.
I mean, he didn't sell it to him, but it's all on display there, right?
Right.
And he knows all the other big collectors, so he curates a lot of the stuff for Rocky with everyone else who's working up there, with your man who's really involved with LG. Yeah, so he's around a lot, and he has a hip hop flyer exhibition right now on the Lower East Side. That's super dope. You should go. You'll dig it. And I'll connect you guys. It'll be good because
Yeah, I think
he's a
somebody
funny guy.
sent me somebody sent me something about that flyer museum because I think they had a flyer with us on it or something in there. Some
I
shit
think
like
he
that.
does. He showed. He has definitely. Yes, he does. He has. I think. Did you do shows with them?
Probably.
I think it's a Third Base, De La, Brand Nubian, and someone else flyer that I saw.
Probably. We did shows. So many fucking shows back then. It was retarded.
The best show that I remember is when you guys at the Palladium in LA with the sound man. I'll leave it at that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was great. That was great.
That was a
because
classic.
that was prime Punks Jump Up, and then a punk
Yeah, it was.
actually
Jumped
jumped
up.
up.
Yeah.
And real quick, when I see when they talk about that word in that song, I don't like when they try to assign it the terminology of it. There's
Right.
a terminology. So when you say FL, that doesn't have anything to do with their sexual proclivity. That's just
that means it's a punk ass motherfucker.
Derogatory term, yes, of a bitch ass, and that can be heterosexual, homosexual, whatever. Nobody's commenting on that, but they almost try to hijack our fucking shit and make it about that. You see what I'm saying?
100%.
They try to act like the whole song was about that, and it wasn't.
I mean, I remember your comment. You said, "Oh, they're gonna put up flyers boycotting us." You were like, "That's the second sniping campaign." I was like, "Yo, this guy." I'll never forget that. I was like, "Whoa!" And I remember people were freaked out at Elektra, and that was another one of the you guys were great at scaring people at the label. I think that's just great, and I think that more people at labels should be scared by their artists. I think that's kind of good because I don't get scared. I'm always like, this is cool. I get it. And if you buckle under it, you deserve everything that comes to you.
I mean, I was shocked. I was surprised when they even tried it. I was like, they're really reaching right now. They're really trying to turn this into something that it's not. Like, this is crazy. But there's a few things in there that are said that, X says some things and he says he apologized. I don't apologize for nothing I've said.
I mean,
everything I've said.
I stand by everyone's right to say.
But I'm also saying that I wasn't, that's not what the fuck I was talking about. So I stand by what I said. Like, you can try to act it like why I was talking about that, but that's not what I was talking about. That was the furthest thing from my mind. Trust me.
Hey, look, that song rocks to this day. That song is that's one of the I have maybe 10 songs I'm associated with in my career that never went away. That's one of them. That and all the dirty stuff, you know what I mean? Like Shimmy and Brooklyn Zoo, that never goes away.
Right.
Maybe that's it.
Wait, you signed Dirty too, right?
Yeah, of course.
Damn, man.
Yeah. Dirty was he was the liveliest guy I ever worked with in my life. And working with him was like, you knew you got a great one. How do you get it done? How do you get it out? How do you get it to the finish line? You got lightning in a bottle. You know what you think it's probably never going to happen again twice. He only had one other song outside the album really ever that popped off. And that first record's great. And, it's all RZA, but I had to get it in the package. I got all the information. Can I get it in the bottle and get it out there? And we managed to do it one time and one time only.
Yeah, he was something else, boy. Like,
I forgot to say this. I'll plug my shit. Besides my book, I produced this Old Dirty Bastard doc for A&E with Sam Pollard and The Estate, and Jason Pollard directed it. So it's with Isoline and Messiah Jacobs, who run The Estate, and it comes out in August. It's really fucking good. And when we screen it in New York, I'll send you the screener for you. You'll come and check it out. I think you'll dig it.
Dope. Do you have a copy of your book handy? You can hold it up and show them.
Let me go grab it. I keep one.
What it look like? What it look like?
Here is my book.
When you're on the mic.
Son of the City. That is my book. Looking like a Blue Note record.
Dante Ross, Son of the City. Yeah. Hang on, turn it to the side. Let me see how thick that motherfucker is.
Not that thick.
Okay.
330 pages.
Okay.
It's long enough.
Okay.
And like I said to you when I seen you, I remember at the De La shit. Like, and this is nothing. Me and Jay were on stage at the De La thing. It was
Dave. Yeah, rest in peace, Dave, man.
And rest in peace, Dave. And it was spiritual, right? Felt like a
It was
spiritual moment.
Yes, it was. I felt better than like a funeral. You know what I mean? Like it just felt like this is what hip hop is supposed to kind of how you're supposed to do it if somebody passed. Like this felt right.
It was like a celebration.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and you were right there, and fucking Latifah's right here, and Pasta and them are on the mic, and Large Fro's there, and all the comments, all these people are there. And I remember you were asking about the book, and I said, yo, man, you know, like the book is my book, but it's your book because without you guys, I can't write the book. You guys are a centerpiece in the book, as are all the artists. And if I don't have the experience of working with you, my book is 83 pages and no one wants to read it. So as much as this is a book I wrote, it's your book too, because it's part of your history is in it, because our histories are very combined.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
So, my man, always great to talk to you and to see you in the flesh. And I hope to see you in New York when we do the screening for the Flip.
Definitely. Let's talk about that opportunity you said you might have.
Yeah. Hit me offline. I got you. You got my math. So hit me and let's chop it up. We'll figure it out. If there's something to do, let's get it done.
Absolutely. All right. Yo.
My man.
Everybody, Dante Ross, Son of the City. Go get that. Hip hop history.
Thank you.
Peace.
Love.
Yes. All right, y'all. Hold up. Let me see. My shit moving slow today. There we go. Oh, I was going to say, why does it say James Anderson? Okay. All right, we did that damn thing, y'all. Appreciate y'all coming through. Hope y'all got some good information. Thank you for people that donated. Heck 9, Dwayne Rhodes. Appreciate y'all. I will be back next week. Listen, if you're on the East Coast and all that, man, I guess stay inside right now, man. The air quality is retarded outside. So, you know, stay safe. Don't be out there breathing that mess. We don't know how they're trying to poison the people right now. We don't know what the fuck's going on. Yeah. So just do what you got to do to protect yourself. Appreciate y'all. Once again, shout out to my guest, Dante Ross. Go get his book, Son of the City, out now. And appreciate everybody for coming through. Make sure you click that like button before you leave. Once again, for the Godcast, I am Lord Jamar. And I'm going to say peace.